Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here at the SPL. My name is Fench. We have a full day of action ahead of you. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at Rival up against SK. I mean, this match has all kinds of implications for who's where and who even makes it to the MSI. Joining me on the desk, though, to break all of that stuff down for you, I've got Taco, Melissa Posada here with me. And Taco, I know you must be excited for this set, too.
Beyond excited. I think that these are two teams that a lot of people have really been looking forward to seeing exactly how they're going to stack up against the other, because in my eyes, Finch, these two teams could not be more evenly matched.
I think it is pretty close. I mean, I talk to PolarBearMike all the time. I'm the correspondent for Rival and Esports Weekly that we do, and he tells me he thinks really the top 7 teams, when we pull the standings up, could all at any point take a game off each other. Maybe not Space Station, like maybe the top 6, but even with some of their changes, they might be in that mix too. So I think you're right. It is so close. Looking at these standings, remember, it's the top 6 teams that are vying towards making it to that mid-season invitational. So that means right now, SK on the bubble, they absolutely have to keep winning these matches so they don't get pushed out by that surging Space Station.
And you never know what's going to happen with Space Station. In fact, ever since that recent roster swap, moving in sort of mid and Sino over in the jungle. So that'll be, I think, more to be determined in the future as we watch Space Station unfold. But for right now, all of the focus is on SK and just trying to maintain their slot in the standings.
That's right. And SK want to maintain their spot there and try and secure their pass, actually make to the mid-season. But Rival are still fighting to try and make sure they can stay in that top spot. I think they were considering themselves like maybe second to how good Dignitas looked, but now that Dignitas have gotten their first loss, Rival could potentially go in with first place if they're able to keep winning out and maybe catch back up to them, and Dignitas were to continue to stumble. So there's a lot that's there for this team to be trying to play for, Taco.
It's certainly an eye-opener, I think, for Rival, recognizing how much success they had early on in this phase and trying to just close it out strong now seems to be the overall message for the team. And I think the real talking point of Rival has been all about FineOK in that solo lane. The man has been absolutely on fire, and it's going to be a tall matchup for Belair today, and I think a real challenge to SK to see how well they're actually able to try and control what Fina has been accomplishing for Rival out of that solo.
He's been an absolute monster for this team, FineOK has in particular. But that's what makes this matchup so interesting, Taco, is that there's big matchups across the board. This matchup in the middle lane between Panda Cat and Paul is another one that I think that's really huge and one that you have to kind of zoom in on, because Panda Cat has done this team such a huge service by stepping up into this role way sooner than anyone can predict. When I was talking to Slaney about it, the coach for Rival, he said he thought a lot of his first phase work was going to be helping Panda Cat get more comfortable. Well, he no longer has to worry about that. My man is fully comfortable and here, and he's someone that even Paul, an elite mid laner, especially based off his last season performance, might have to worry about.
Well, you have to have respect for Panda Cat because of the fact that the guy is just mechanically strong, and I think that's one of the primary reasons he's had so much success in this transition from a hunter to mid lane, because a lot of times I think Rival are able to be a little bit more versatile with their front line, since Panda Cat is also so flexible with his own god pool. He can go hunters, he can go for the mages. Hell, I wouldn't even count this guy out on warriors or assassins as a flex in the mid lane. He's just kind of been all over the place and a little bit hard to track down or pinpoint.
And that flexibility, I think, is going to be really important, Taco, because coming into this week for the SPL, there's some gods available that have not been available yet, right? Horus, Set, and Morrigan has been brought back as well. All 3 of those gods now available. So it's not just they could potentially end up pick something like Morrigan, but you had to worry about the mid junglers all the time in the middle lane, right? So now there could potentially be Sets running around, Horus as well, knocking people up or bringing people over from the other side of the map. I mean, who do you think that we're most likely to see between those 2 brand new gods, Horus and Set?
I think easily Horus, and I'd be surprised if we even get a chance to see Horus. I'm actually expecting Horus to be an instantaneous permaban for at least this set. Who knows how it's going to be in the future with some of the other teams, but from what I've heard, at least, a lot of the pros are definitely putting a lot of I think, favoritism towards Horus out of the 2 since their release, largely because of the fact that Horus just seems to have a little bit more of that team fighting impact. And we've seen so much already in Phase 1 here as Season 6 has been developing, where a lot of teams are just prioritizing compositions that are going to take off right around that mid-game mark. And Horus is certainly one to fit the bill there.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that I know that's like the big storyline with him. I don't even think that's the part of his kit that makes him insane, right? I mean, I think that's probably the least impactful thing. And if you can find some opportunities to use it, it is pretty strong. But this is just a big week, and how these guys are going to be used. They're kind of setting the meta, in particular Rival and SK here first. And what better person to get a little bit of insight about that and to ask about that than PolarBearMike? He's standing by for Rival's interview.
Thank you. From the desk, I'm here with PBM support for Team Rival. First thing I have to ask you is, you guys already clinched to the MSI. Has that affected your mentality preparing for this match, or also maybe your practice schedule?
No, we don't really. We kind of thought we would clinch before the split started anyways. Same practice schedule, hitting the Zapman Qs, Deathwalker Qs, any Qs we can hit. Getting to hit one of them at land today, that's pretty amazing. So we're excited for the match.
Today you're up against Neil. What have you noticed from him? How does this matchup generally go for you two?
Neil and I have had a lot of good matches in our career. I feel like he's a pretty weak mental game opponent. I feel like he can really crumble under pressure. So looking to attack him there.
Is Arco prepared for the Sam for Soccer special?
I don't know if you can ever really prepare for Sam level 2 gank. He's just kind of dominant with it, and I expect Kenny to get first blood at every game.
He does have quite a few first blood Sam for Soccer. So what have you noticed out of SK that they do particularly well, and how have you prepared for it?
I think they're really good at just being on time around the map to camp timers, invading, grouping up together, and looking for fights. Definitely something you have to be prepared for before you play them.
Well, thank you for your time. PBM, best of luck in your set.
Always fun to get a chance to hear there from PolarBearMike. Maybe some mental damage could be done to NeilMah, at least the way he was saying it there. But I think just having a little bit of fun. This is going to be a big matchup. When I talked to him about this matchup in particular, he said that the way SK can play can mean that the matches could be really swingy one way or the other. Likely, one of these teams is probably going to get rolled in each of these individual matches because SK go for these big punches. They do go for these big plays where whichever team comes out on top punishes the other one by a lot.
I think the big thing is that a lot of teams have recognized that SK is just so strong at controlling and exploiting the early to mid-game phases. And so if you let NeilMah kind of take advantage of your jungler, which is something that we've seen Neil time and time again try to look to really control that jungle spacing and presence across the board. He'll do early rotations, even if it means putting himself a little bit further behind. It doesn't really matter so much. And not only that, but Neil frequently roaming the map also gives a lot of time, I think, for Paul to kind of just take advantage of a lot of that solo farm in the mid lane instead. And it's not as detrimental whenever he does end up splitting lanes with or splitting waves with Sam, because like I said, a lot of teams tend to be, having their support there also, but Neil's usually not.
That's right. You never really know where Neil's going to be on the map, and that does kind of leave things a lot more open for Paul. We already talked about Panda Cat and how important this could be for him, so I think a lot of pressure is on Paul for SK. These two guys feel like the superstars for me, Sam and Paul. I know Zapman's like the big name on this roster, but they really need those two guys to play at such a high level if SK are going to win. And we got to zoom in on Paul. So let's say that, some of these newer picks that are coming in, or even the fact that Morrigan's put back into the pool does move those bans around. Maybe we'll see Paul on some of these healers then. Maybe they'll put into the mid lane. We've seen some Aphrodites there building damage or something like that. I think the door's kind of open for Paul to really be able to step up and be the playmaker that I think SK Gaming is going to need if they're going to take down a team like Rival.
Well, actually, you mentioned this earlier, Finch, and I'm glad that you did, but Paul and Panda Cat have a lot of similarities, I feel, when it comes to the couple that they prefer to try and utilize in that mid lane. And we see a lot of Raijin, Vulcan, Habwa. Those tend to be, I think, the main three. So if Paul were to try and utilize some more of the healers like the Aphrodite or the Hell, there's even a possibility, I think, for Chang'e to revisit this mid lane even.
I think so too, man. I think that the healers are all strong right now. Some of these other ones are now available, are certainly strong. And then some of the other stuff that we've already seen, right? Osiris has really risen up lately in the meta, so he's another one that you have to look at and where he's going to be getting valued at in these picks and bans. There's so much different stuff that these players should be keeping in their mind to make sure they're in that right mindset and they can come in and put their best foot forward, especially for SK if they want to make it to the MSI. With all that rattling around in their heads, though, I'm assuming that Neil is going to make for a pretty darn good interview. Let's head down there to talk with SK.
Really great set against Splice, but staggered a little bit against Renegades. What have you learned from that last week?
I think just to be a little bit more flexible. I think they caught us a little bit off guard. We didn't see anything from them. They played really well. They're really good at showing up on time for things, and they just drafted a little bit differently than Splice. I think that gave us a little bit of trouble. So we learned to be a little bit more flexible and change it up a little bit more.
So today you're against PBM. He had some strong words for you, calling you a weak mental player. Is that going to affect you today?
Not me, no. I own a lot of free real estate up there, so I know why he'd say that. He's a little bit rattled, I think.
Is this the Hercules meta, you versus Spliced? Is that something that PBM also enjoy?
I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know. It's definitely a fun character, and I think this meta you can play a lot of different things, so Some games it'll be good for them, some games maybe not. We'll have to see.
So Rival is a team that only lost to Dignitas. What has made them look so strong in this first phase, and how have you prepared for it?
Everything about that team's pretty strong, except for Mike's mental game. He kind of holds them back, I think. But other than that, they're pretty well-rounded. Good early game, good mid game, good late game. It's just sometimes Mike chokes, and that kind of costs them sets. So that's all I can say about that.
Oh, both supports having strong words against the other. Thank you so much for your time. Neil, back to you at the desk.
That's right. It's not just actually your gameplay on the field. It's the mental aspect too, Taco. Both of these supports clearly got a little bit of work to do to raise their mental game, at least in the eye of one another, it would seem from across the way. But these guys just having some fun. You love to see it from these players. And now, Taco, we are starting to think, I feel like, to get down to brass tacks here in this matchup between these two teams. I think Rival are the favorites going in, but not by a ton. SK can absolutely still win this match.
And I think that's why Rival are probably going to end up paying a lot of respect. I mean, all interview jokes aside,
Sure.
We can all tell. NeilMah, PolarBearMike, these guys know and are very familiar, I think,
Right.
with the support play style because of how long they've just been playing in the same scene together. But I am very interested to see who's going to try and take the more aggressive direction because I feel like that's going to be SK, who's going to be trying to be a little bit more proactive, something that I think they were really lacking in their set against the Renegades,
Right.
was having that little bit of a presence. It was like SK was actually playing into the Renegades' own style instead of just looking for their own like we have seen in the past from them, and mostly I think utilizing NeilMah for that. I think NeilMah is the primary candidate from SK here who needs to kind of shake things up a bit, try and throw Rival off their mojo.
I agree. Get back to the Neil that we all know is a big play for SK Gaming if he can make that happen as we move into the picks and bans for game number 1. Freya has been banned here first, no surprise, but there's a lot of stuff to consider. The Merlin obviously should be banned, but what about the Jormungandr? What about the Osiris? What about some of these new ones that can be available to be picked? Set and Horus. Does Morrigan factor back in? The healers as well. This is why there are some players who are saying maybe there should be one more ban. There's a lot of good stuff in the game right now, and where it gets prioritized can sometimes be key.
And the way I see it, Finch, SK is definitely headed in the right direction so far. Taking away the Freya and the Chronos, I mean, that's two really strong mage or hunter options that Rival won't be able to utilize now. And not only that, but since they're in that first pick position, they're in a prime slot now. Rival are kind of pinched here. If they, well, it's actually going to end up being a Horus ban, not
Right.
the pass ban that's shown below. So Horus, at the very least, won't have a chance to make his way for an SPL debut so far. But SK with a very interesting Artemis hover, and the only thing, Muzen Cobb actually going to be the selection, and that is a little bit more on par, I think, with where Season 6 is currently at. A lot of, I think, ambiguity surrounding this Muzen as far as whether he's going to be a mid or ADC, and I think it's still a relatively safe pick at the very start because SK still have a chance to complement this Muzen Cobb with tons of frontline.
I agree. I think that this Muzen Cobb is a good flex pick for the team, right? It could definitely go either way for Paul or for Zap. It's a strong first pick too, and not too hard to, not so easy for them to counter from Rival. So I think you're pretty safe picking it first. Even if they do get a composition with a lot of dive, something like a Muzen Cobb can still survive through that with all of his own return damage, and SK still have plenty of room to pick someone to kind of puppy guard him a little bit too, if that ends up being necessary. So perfectly fine going with this early. Not surprised at all, though, that Horus was banned out. One more time, that is what that pass ban is down there for Rival. That was Horus being banned out from them. He's very strong, especially going into a support like Neil who likes to roam. He has so much utility in his kit that can make someone like Neil even scarier in those early fights.
And, well, it's still going to look pretty scary, though, for Rival seeing that Terra being added alongside of the Habois. But I think it was a really smart response from SK to look for the Morrigan, because now this is threatening Rival in a sense where SK could potentially have Paul on the Habois as well. It really will be a challenge of anything you can do, I can do better.
That is pretty funny, right? I mean, and that's if it is going to be the Habois. I imagine it'll be in the middle lane for Panda Cat, though it also still has some slight flex potential. Twig doesn't play it as much. Panda Cat's really relied on it, so I imagine that's where it'll be. But SK have done a great job, I think, with these first 3 picks. Morrigan is so strong, and that's why she's being prioritized here. She can be every other god, but even her base mage kit can be game-changing at times if the flank path can be found, if she can kind of weave her way through the fight and then get in and do some big burst damage on one of those key targets. I'm very excited for what SK are going to show us here, and now Rival, I think, have a lot of pressure to try and match this early value with their next pick.
possibly an Osiris or a Bellona could be the result here. There is Camazotz as well. We all know that Final K is definitely capable of playing any three of those gods I just mentioned.
Yeah, maybe
it's
Yorm.
just that when you're dealing with the King Arthur, it's really up to Rival to decide. We can look for, I think, the front line later on in the draft, or we can solidify a hunter that we think is going to have a more favorable matchup to what SK have allotted for so far. And it seems as though Rival, feeling pretty confident in Final K's talents, would much rather prioritize an ADC pick to stack up against that Muzen Cobb. Hachiman probably being one of the better options as well, since AMC can't really avoid the mounted archery or the heavenly banner. Really strong poke out potential as well if this Hachiman is going to be in duo with that Terra. And honestly, I do feel as though SK were expecting Rival to go for the Habwa at the very least. I do feel as though SK still got the better end of Rival for the first three.
I think so too. They've got some very high priority picks. It feels like SK are kind of picking from all the stuff that you would ban if you were at home. SK is like, give us all that stuff. Whereas Rival, it feels like, yeah, they've got some really strong picks, but maybe not the ones that in everyone's mind are the ones you absolutely have to clear out. They certainly still have some strong stuff, man. I'm a little bit worried. Even Hachiman's Eagle Eye can kind of keep up with some of Muzen Cobb's poke range. Not entirely, but some. So I think there's still a good matchup for Arco there if it is the Muzen Cobb in that long lane, as Osiris does get banned out. Some of the frontline options now starting to dwindle.
Almost wondering if there's going to be a Bellona to follow suit with that Osiris. And I do feel as though that resurgence of Osiris came because he serves as such a massive hindrance to hunters. SK could possibly look for, I think, a double hunter type of composition. It's not to say that this Morrigan couldn't be for Sam for Soccer.
That's right. I think that this Morrigan pick is still flex. The Muzen Cobb is still flex. SK, maybe they've already decided, maybe not. It doesn't matter. Rival are the ones who can't be certain with 100% accuracy where all those picks are going to go, so they still have to play it very carefully. It looks like they've invested heavily, though, into this not being in the jungle. They've banned the Mercury and the Pele and grabbed the Unbatch themselves. This adds a lot of control. It can sometimes make it tougher for Morrigan to find her way in. Fear No Evil doesn't care if you're stealthed.
Well, that's the thing. I think this was actually a perfect option for Rival because you already have Terra, Hachiman to kind of help control with jungle space around objectives and just gank potential in general. But Fear No Evil is going to be very restrictive, I think, for this Morrigan, Muzen, and King Arthur. In fact, that Batz might have been the best possible option here for Rival, just because as long as you have an active beads burner, that is almost always going to give a freebie either to Terra or Batz for finding a root or just the hard crowd control out of the Fear No Evil.
It'd be very difficult for SK to keep up with their crowd control. Sam for Soccer there on your screen, rocking the Eagles hat. That confuses me. I thought he was for soccer, not for football. My man, get your sports right, as Fafnir locks in for SK. And this might mean we're seeing some Thanatos come through. Now, this is very interesting. They've got the Fafnir to synergize with the Muzen Cobb. Morrigan could even potentially transform to Hachiman and add some extra to that too, if that's the path they want to go down. But this Thanatos gives them a ton of early pressure. If he can get the ball rolling on this Thanatos, which I assume is for Sam, that could be real hard for Rival to stop.
Well, Finch, we mentioned at the very start today when we first brought up these two teams, SK loves exploiting that early game, and their composition just screams they want to dominate that first 15 minutes and look to close it out before Rival even has a chance to let some of their, I think, gods like the Batz or the Zhong really have a chance to come online. Habwa, I think I could give the benefit of the doubt for kind of coming online early game. It really all depends on whether or not he's actually able to farm it out, I think. But that Thanatos makes me think otherwise. I think that is going to be a permanent sit down on top of that Habwa.
Not going to give him any room to breathe, though. If Rival can make it through, they've got a very scary team fight when all 5 of those dudes group up. SK versus Rival, game number 1. Get it over to Hindu and Anatoly for the call.
Thanks so much, guys, in the desk. Yeah, it's going to be me and Toly for this one. SK versus Rival. These compositions. The Morrigan in play. I'm going to look at the Morrigan options for targets to turn into. There's ridiculous amounts.
So many
different options.
And that's what's beautiful about playing the Morrigan, is that there's always going to be viable options between 9 different gods. But when I look at these two compositions, outside of the Morrigan, Hindu, I'm looking at early game from SK, late game out of Rival. They're anticipating the aggressive Thanatos, so they're going to try to prepare for it by just baking in the oven.
I'm realistic though, Toly. Like, I know you guys on the desk, you yourself just said, like, this is an early game comp from SK. Thanatos surely is.
Yes.
But then Morrigan's late game AMC, he's got good lane dominance, but
Sure.
he goes well into the late game too. And then you've got Fafnir, which is also going to help you out in the late game. So, sure, they've got some focus to early game, in my opinion, but not as much as, like, maybe you may think.
So to elaborate further, it's more about the crowd control versus the single target burst damage. SK Gaming can definitely fight in the late game. There's no question about that. A lot of damage coming through from Paul playing the Muzen comp, especially boosted by NeilMah on the Fafnir, but the problem is, how are you going to deal with the Fear No Evil, the Terra root stun coming through, Zhong with all this AoE damage? There's no healing coming through from SK Gaming to deal with all that AoE.
And the start of the game is most important here. NeilMah on the right-hand side looking for a bit of a cheeky aggression if possible. You can see the wards down, one of the red buff for SK Gaming at rival side of the map, and also the Harpies on the right-hand side too. So they're really trying to keep track of where the jungle is going to go after the initial start.
There's always the Sanford Soccer special that you got to worry about, and Rival are maybe thinking about doing it themselves, but they actually blink to get closer to the red buff for Captain Twig. He really wants to min-max his farm and look for these neutral camp controls, getting the left side camps first.
Both junglers going to actually do their speed into red buff there. Captain Twig did take any minions out of mid lane. Instead, he'll take the left-hand Harpies. Sanford Soccer, meanwhile, did soak a minion or two off that middle wave with Paul to get himself to level 2 as well. And now PolarBearMike making a transition, same time as NeilMah, in towards the mid lane, but Mike's going to get here first. Only level 1, however. The walls clap down. Knock up from Panda Cat's good. Monkey Toss even better. Unfortunately, Twig, though, made a bit of a mistake there. Overall, he jumped to the Monkey Toss, which didn't land on his target. He went to the next target, and he was against the Thanatos.
Unfortunate set of circumstances. A great gank from PBM. A level 1 Terra, probably one of the weakest level 1s in the game, but hitting the stun buys you enough time to position with a body block, and with that knock-up as well. That was a missed opportunity.
Turnaround time. Panda Cat, though, with a very good knock-up to slow them down, and the bees are going to cause problems. But Panda Cat bought Aegis at the start with his relic choice, and that was the only thing that kept him alive.
Well, you can't beat the hovering death, so Aegis is your next best go-to option. PBM just kind of showing off of his mechanics there, preventing this invade from being successful. But already, SK Gaming with 1 kill with an Aegis being forced on Panda Cat. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep using this Paul early game lane clear pressure to start slowly chipping away at Panda Cat, maybe look for some red buff invade soon.
Definitely a fortunate case of events there, though, Anatoly. SK Gaming getting first blood off a gank attempt from Rival is what ended up happening there. Sure, Mike got the walls down, but it didn't work out well at the end of the day with Captain Twig falling. Didn't put him too much of a deficit just yet. More importantly, though, Paul on that AMC in the mid lane did get a little bit more farm. And funny enough, we've not mentioned Morrigan in the dual lane just yet for Zapman, but I wasn't really surprised when I saw the AMC drafted here. He generally does sit in the mid lane.
He's played Nuwa before, Zapman, so playing a mage doesn't surprise me either, especially when Paul can play the physical hunter. I'm a little surprised that Zap wasn't going for a magical hunter to synergize with his Fafnir composition.
But I think that was to do with SK actually banning away Chronos and Freya in the first phase. They had a sort of plan there. And we've seen a little bit more of these physicals towards the mid lane nowadays as well with hunters. So you expect to see maybe some mages balance that out in the dual lane. And you get free farm, Morrigan's definitely a good character to have there.
Oh, definitely true. And her basic attacks definitely hurt once you can proc that third basic attack, getting that damage over time. Not able to last hit it, but close.
I was in shock for a second because I was like, wait a second, Zapman didn't go aggressive then. He saw a 2v1 and thought, you know what, I'm not going to take this now. I'll even let them get the farm and won't even risk it.
Nah, he's reformed now.
He really is.
He's married.
He really is. Instead, he'll return and get his own purple buff for the time being. He's got shoes of focus online so far. He's up against Arkil on the Hachiman. Got to be careful in this matchup for both those two in the dual lane as time goes on. Both of them have kill potential against the other. Obviously, a mage relatively weak against the hunter auto attacks if he can land them. But the burst potential's there for Zap if he can catch Arkil with a bit of a sneaky stealth
And
situation.
Arkil not wanting to play aggressive despite having the lane advantage, fearful of these rotations coming through from Sanford Soccer. There's always that hovering death that you have to keep in the back of your mind. And if Sanford Soccer initiates, even without like being an execute threshold, all the damage follow from Sam's could easily be led up to Sanford Soccer, or sorry, rather Zap, transforming into Sam for a second hovering death.
With Rival losing that Aegis in mid lane on Panda Cat. It's been in quite slow pace so far. Rival have to kind of give up a bit of farm here, there, and pretty much everywhere across the map and just allow SK this a little bit of early dominance because of the Thanatos pressure that could be looming at any moment.
Well, they definitely knew the timer, but not able to exploit it quite yet, so they're thinking about ways to maybe look for the next red buff invade coming up in less than 15 seconds. You're talking about Zap not being aggressive, but he'll always play aggressive.
Always a chance for a kill. At level 6, though, Hachi versus Hachi, and Hachi will get the kill. Welcome to North America, Mr. Frenchman Arkil.
Wow.
Zapman is here to fight. I expected a scrap in this duel lane, and already in game 1, we're starting to see it.
I was just surprised that it was Zapman forcing it without a gank. And I think that's kind of what scared Arkil. He thought that maybe there was going to be a rotation coming through from Stanford Soccer, so he wanted to retreat.
There is so much attention being paid, though, towards the middle area of the map and invading buffs that the duel lane does go unnoticed a lot of the time. These hunters just go unchecked. And that does give the opportunity for 1v1s, which we've not had for a while, in fairness. We're starting to see more this year.
And in this particular matchup, a Morrigan versus the Hachiman, Zap can easily use the Dark Omen from a distance to apply a slow, get an extra basic attack in, and with 10 or 20% cooldown reduction once this Mage's Blessing does evolve, Zap has the advantage for now. But once Arco does get the Devil Gloves, that's when he can take all that poke damage and not have to worry about that aggression.
Sam uses his ult there. Not sure if it was spotted by Rival overall, but at the same time, there wasn't really a window to finally execute. Arca was definitely a sort of target there again for a secondary gank, potentially. Keep the pressure mounted on this left-hand side. It doesn't come to anything for now, however, so he falls back and heads to the jump.
I like the idea, though, because Arco didn't have his mounted archery, so he doesn't have much of an escape outside of his purification beats.
Good point. Mid lane, though, Hebo farming up. Book of Thoth now online for PandaCat. He took a long time before basing. Did keep the pressure, obviously rolling that mid lane with the AMC up against him here. Slowers won't be as impactful against this rival roster just because they do have that Harbois with the slow immunity, so to speak, with the Atlas of the Yellow River will help out a lot there. Might gonna get aggressive in mid, though. Only on towards NeilMah. Bit of a tricky situation to kill a Fafnir at this level, unless he sets himself up with the ultimate for a Hebo, right?
That's true. There's always going to be the counterplay available once the Fafnir does transform. It takes about 1.5 seconds to fully evolve into the Dragon. That's why a lot of teams will like the Poseidon into the Fafnir, because you can Whirlpool Kraken as he comes back into the Dragon. But a Habwa can also look for a knock-up into the Crushing Wave. The only difference is you're going to kind of put yourself out of position.
Well, the window on killing Arkil on cooldown could be coming to a close eventually. Once he gets those Devourer's Gauntlets online, he'll have a bit of sustain to be able to heal back up. But this is definitely the window to look at.
And not only that, looking at the warding situation behind the Gold Fury, there's 2 wards at both purples from Rival. And those wards are Arkles. And in the stat-wise, between Zap and Arkle, throughout their games played, in 24 games, Arkle has dropped 338 wards, whereas Zap in 24 games has dropped 263.
Right, calling out Zapman there. Sam Pasaka, though, going to have to go to the sky. Nicely timed ultimate away from the Fear No Evil out of Captain Twig, though. So ult for ult exchange, but a small win, I would say, for SK. At least for now, because the Blink was consumed by Captain Twig.
A good performance to be able to at least get something out of nothing. The beads out of Paul, as we were talking about PandaCat not having Aegis, how he's going to be vulnerable. Well, Muzen falls in that same category. He doesn't have any gap-closing abilities like a dash or a jump, heavily relying on his hives for the movement speed.
More aggression in mid as Neil jumps on PandaCat. In comes Sam Pasaka too. Looking for the extra damage, but won't find enough just yet. Captain Twig turns up the overhand smash to push back SK for now, but they're keeping the pressure onto this Hebo here.
I think Sam missed his Death Scythe, not actually hitting the target because of the walls from the Terra.
I actually thought he might have been that, but I didn't want to say that. I was hoping you'd come.
The second damage source, which heavily bursted PandaCat, was the Stinger out of Paul.
So I'm getting aggressive again against Arkil, and this is the looming danger you're against the whole time. That stealth just gives you a bit of more mobility too. So Arkil consistently has to be pressured off this wave. And I like what Zap's doing. He's kind of freezing the wave until he wants to push it out to go either base or make a rotation off maybe for a buff or a ward placement.
And the Dark Omen comes out so fast. I think it's actually like 55 units, maybe. It feels more than 55 units than the ranged that you can actually shoot as a hunter. So that's why Zap is going outside the archers, trying to be the big bully. Going back to old school Zap, man.
With the lead so far, though, SK Gaming up about 2,000 gold here at the start of this one. Totally, is this okay for Rival, though? Like, they're not giving up too much at the moment. Is this their game plan with how this is looking?
I mean, obviously, you never want to go into a game thinking, like, yeah, we're going to be down 2,000 gold, no problem. But I don't think this is a bad thing for Rival to think about mentally. They know that they have the better team fighting composition 5-on-5 in the late game, relying on the Fear No Evil.
Zap getting aggressive again, turns into Hachiman and shows off his abilities, but it's not going to be enough. Now he's overextended extended and Panda Cat on the way. So is PolarBearMike, and there's not a single SK member in sight. But they just can't get the chase on in time. And Zapman literally got away from the Executioner podium.
So Zap did a smart play there. He canceled his ultimate early to not want to dive any further. He realized that he could chase Arco for the kill. You're matching the speed. Like, it's two mounted archery. It's literally a horse race, right? But the problem was, if he dives into tier 2 tower, he has no escape as a Morrigan. Canceling it at that moment, he's able to at least position himself safely.
Interesting plays then. Devour's Gauntlet's now online for Arkil, so he'll be stacking. And if Zapman does get aggressive in this lane, it does mean as long as he survives the engagement, he can re-sustain off those creeps. It won't be as terrible as it once was.
And now he has a 2-level lead. I think he might be even working towards Bumba's Mask, trying to get more mobility.
It's back!
6 seconds stealth on Morrigan. So that extra movement speed coming through Bumba's Mask is going to allow you to make some more flanking opportunities.
Well, funny enough, when Morrigan was very, very dominant in the SPL, it was because of the stealth that she had even more mobility than she's got now. It lasted a little bit longer.
8 seconds.
But now it's been cut down. However, the mobility is going to help out. Fine, okay. Getting aggressive against Belair, though, on this right-hand side. He lives a long time. The execute came through, but he healed up at the best possible time. And that is the worst possible outcome for SK Gaming.
I think he actually healed through the Warrior's Blessing, now refreshing. That 40 health that you get, not to mention the Pythagoras piece between the base stats and the aura, you're getting 24% magical lifesteal.
Paul getting aggressive in mid lane. Now beads consumed there because of the horrific emblem from PolarBearMike. That right-hand side play, though, this is the one thing, Tolly, when you run these executes like a Thanatos in the jungle, having people like a Zhong that can re-sustain can really get you out of danger.
And it's the thing is, Zhong only has one sustain option, but he has 2 items that kind of heals him, so that makes it even harder to really predict, is the Zhong really an execute threshold? I don't mind the play from Sam for Soccer, because that should have been a kill, honestly, at the end of the day, but it's not the protections that was the problem. It was definitely the healing. So now Sam for Soccer, looking back at it, probably not looking no longer at Final K.
Yeah, I think both Sam and Bella need to probably reassess how that gank attempt went down and what really went wrong. Final K had the ultimate in use, so had the protections, and at the tail end, you saw the dunk down, but I don't think there was a real call about whether that exorcism was available or not, I think was the bigger call. Having the exorcism available really did help him out. Arkil has to keep on running consistently away from this Morrigan. Oh no, rank game's gonna get worse.
Oh,
now.
it is. It absolutely is. And honestly, even though Zap might not get another kill from here on out, if he keeps bullying out Arkil to this point, this is going to delay the stacking department from Arkil on the Devo Gloves to slow him down a little bit.
And a little bit behind in mid lane too, as Bella makes a rotation to put a bit of pressure on it if possible. Won't find the window this time round though. Good news though for Arkil, he has caught up a little bit. There was a 2-level gap there originally in the dual lane. He's just going to be 1 now. So slowly making up ground. But funny enough, we talked about the gold lead for SK Gaming. The gap's kind of closed a little bit, but not only that, the experience. There's multiple players on Rival with pretty decent leads.
It feels that way, as there's going to be a little bit of pressure onto PBM. No more dash from PBM, and that's why Neil transforms.
SMITE was still trying to hold on to his ultimate to the last minute there, and in the end, he still goes down to the execute from Sam. Silence out from Sam for Soccer does hit Twig, but Twig does get away thanks to the beads and the jump over the wall. But the damage has been done, Toll.
And with 2 picks, no hesitation, SK Gaming demand their time to shine with the Gold Fury. Panda Cat dying there is a result of going the Aegis, not the beats.
It's starting to live up to expectations this match. Both teams are definitely all-rounders, superstars in every role. Talking about a real superstar right now, Fine OK is having a field day in that solo lane now. The one gank attempt from Sam for Soccer has now caused that lane to turn around.
Oh, the Dark Omen transforming into the Hachiman. Not going to be able to catch Arkil there, considering. Oh, he's actually going to dive.
No, not again. Oh, Aegis to save the day. Zap knew exactly what he was doing. Great little play on that left-hand side, and Arkil's having a hard time here.
I thought that he wasn't going to catch him because Arkil used the horse second, so he had a slight longer duration, and he could still get hit by the first mounted archery to immune the slow.
But at the same time, the range, I guess, is the other thing. You've got to get out of the range of the horse in the first place. And the range, when you're on the horseback, is pretty big.
Yeah.
Pyromancer, though, for Rival in response, so at least they find something on the right-hand side after losing that Gold Fury. The map situation is definitely starting to develop, too. Tier 1 tower in the mid lane for Rival is on its last legs, and the one on the left-hand side has been chipped away at because of the pressure Zapman has exerted.
SK Gaming have the advantage in the left and mid, but Rival having the advantage in the solo lane side with that solo play from Final K. He didn't have that much defense, only a tier 2 version of the Hide of Urchin. Not that much, all things considered. A little bit of health. You're relying on the Zhong passive for the protections, and with the Pyromancer, the tier 1 tower, and the solo kill, this keeps Rival still very close into the contention of this game to not get completely out of control, to wait for the late game and rely on these team fights. 5-on-5 team fights with Zhong and Batz is scary.
And I will keep an eye on that Batz too, because they are the two at the moment in the lead. Fear no evil from Captain Twig gets the beads out of Zapman at least. Keeping those on cooldown, very important at this stage. And when we look at the Zhong, who's having a good time here, and the Batz, Toli, is this where Rival need to play around now, these two, and just wait for the team fights?
Absolutely. This is their only real advantage in the team fights, because they're not winning it in the 1v1 on the left side, as Arkle using the ultimate without getting even any danger.
Well, no, he was in a lot of danger. I'm going to discredit it. He had no beads, no Aegis, and if he gets hit by that stun, it's good night, sweet prince.
Well, he could have dashed away. Honestly, he could have walked around the purple buff, but he wants to use the ultimate to keep his tier 1 tower alive, and I don't think that's worth it.
Sam's in a bit of trouble here as Twig and Arkle start to poke him down. Sam respectfully tries to ult away, but the damage out from both Captain Twig and Arkle's too much. Now Neil's in a bit of an awkward position as the rotation from Rival in the mid lane. Fine OK is here. The card is online. But Neil still had his jump. Zapman, meanwhile, guess what? You got a Zhong that's good. How's it going, Arkle? Where's your tower gone?
Arkle, no relics, and now the tower does finally go down. Zap in a world of trouble. Can't get away from Captain Twig. A very important 2 picks for Rival. But the question is, what are they going to get here?
Well, I don't think there's much they can get, but getting a couple of kills is kind of important at that stage. Zap's over-aggression got punished a little bit more there as well, but we do see the Bombers online, fully online as well. What's the situation with that, Tully? Is it worthwhile?
I think it will be when you're trying to avoid a 5-on-5 team fight, knowing that obviously that's Rival's strength. Avoid that as much as possible. Look for flanks, right? So Zapman is going to be looking for that stun from behind on a squishy target with the Dark Omen follow-up, looking for Sanford Soccer, Blink, Engage, and all the damage that Zap's going to apply on that one squishy target. Sanford Soccer is looking for the hovering death.
I do feel like Zapman's kind of saying, hey, Arkle, welcome to North America. This is the ranked meta. Have an experience of what it's like on the day-to-day.
That could be it.
It feels like a Zap rank game. That's what I'm saying. In terms of his aggression and what he's been doing. And not negative aggression. I'm saying like positive aggression. He's making windows of opportunity and being pretty successful so far.
It's the golden rule. Do unto others what you would have done unto you. And playing that rank game, Zapman has experienced the full wrath of the Bombas mask. So now kind of sharing that with Arkle. Arkle's still slowing down in terms of stacks, only at 59 with this wave and with a Sentry Ward out of Zap. This could be another opportunity to be aggressive.
Yeah, keeping an eye on Rival though. Panic in the mid lane, going to go for the Breastplate of Valor option. Obviously, great for cooldown, a little bit more physical defense here. Quite concerned, it seems, Rival on just survivability for now. They're going to try and outlast, I feel, in some of these fights now, SK.
This isn't the first time that Panic Cat has built this item. Normally, you see this only in the solo lane because you're up against a physical solo laner and a physical jungler. Normally, your mid-mage wants to build pure damage, but you're still getting a lot of value from this item in terms of the cooldown reduction and the sheer amount of mana.
But no pen. Belair, though, under pressure. The stun from Fine OK didn't hit, so he forces Twig to use the Fear No Evil. And Belair goes down on the right-hand side here. SK Gaming still have a 2k gold lead at the moment, but Rival are starting to hit the critical mass point that you'd expect to see in mid-game. Fine OK now in mid with Twig in tow, and these two really are going around the map causing problems where they can. This is what you're hoping for, but Sam has turned up, and immediately Fine OK uses the ult.
He was in a little bit of trouble now, trying to turn it on its head. Hovering Death wasn't in the execute threshold. Fine OK out-heal the damage.
Oh, meanwhile, Zapman is under a world of pressure. 3 members of Rival are all grouped up, and the walls from PolarBearMike cause so many problems. Panda Cat may not have a lot of pen right now, but a crushing wave will still be enough to secure a kill and look towards an Onifure.
Habwa's damage is still going to be quite a lot. Even when he has high amount of percent scaling, he has high amount of base damage as well, so you could still get away with building a tank Habwa mid.
So SK Gaming now evened up thanks to Rival getting that Onifure. Tower situation, 1 down on the left-hand side, 1 down on the right-hand side, so that's technically even in terms of gold output for these two teams here. However, the big thing is definitely where Fine OK and Captain Twig go, because that seems to be the real turning point of what happened.
It was a trickle-down effect. There was actually a ward from SK Gaming at Rival's blue buff, so I wasn't sure exactly what pathing Captain Twig took, but it wasn't respected by Belair. getting caught behind where your tier 1 tower and blue buff are. Not where you want to be 19 minutes into the game against Captain Twig's Batz and the Zhong. So once that kill happened, transitioning it over to the mid lane, knowing the Fury is up, Rival are truly using their crowd control and the AoE damage in this mid game portion.
FineOK now start to make these rotations very, very quickly towards the other lanes now and put some pressure down for Rival. He's already taken the tier 1 on the right-hand side, and this is all the window that FineOK develops off that, well, failed gank attempt from SK. This is what it all comes back to, when Sam and Belair both died in a technical 2v1 for the most part.
Yeah, and that was a good look for Rival to start to come back into it. Look at this, Hindu. They want to take the bull by the horns.
Well, on the way comes SK. Sam Fasoka now has a Magi's Cloak. Could go in for the kill, but he's going to be too late. We've taken to the sky with his ultimate to turn it around. And the zoning ult from Captain Twig was pretty good from the Fear No Evil too. FineOK gets a little bit too excited about pressing that ultimate button, but it may not stop the aggression from Rival just yet. Twig to the backline, looking for King Arthur, and the King is dead once more. NeilMah will be evaporated, mainly from Arkil, who, remember, was struggling in that duo lane for such a long period of time. And at 20 minutes in, Rival have this game by the scruff of the neck.
This is why Rival are 5-1 with a +10 game differential. With calls like that, this is the total opposite of what you've seen from Space Station Gaming throughout the first phase. Rival's ability to make a call, execute it cleanly, using the Fear No Evil to make sure nobody was in steal potential. Sam Fasoka was in the sky for hovering death, but I don't think he had the timing window to find the last hit. Not only that, Zap was on the left side of the map, so that was also all according to the plan from Rival. And then the chase down afterwards, that wasn't done with sprint at all. They were literally running at SK Gaming, knowing Zap still wasn't there, trying to rely on some of the slows from FineOK until finally Captain Twig and Panda Cat put their stamp of approval.
I think Zhong just popping the ult was enough for me to be like, yeah, they're going aggressive. And they didn't stop, which was really surprising. At the tail of that, I think the one thing we see with Rival, though, here, Toli, is they play to where they're winning. They're not playing around where they're losing. They left Arkil pretty much on an island when things started going bad there. And then as soon as FineOK got a bit of a lead on this right-hand side, not only does Rival start to play through that by rotating FineOK around to join the team, but then it's having a knock-on effect on the other lanes as well.
Rival definitely play around FineOK like every single game. Last picking the Zhong was something that you want to put him in the most comfortable spot. You got to respect Belair's presence in the early game from the Arthur. It's very difficult to lock down the Zhong, so FineOK surviving the early game allows him to make these rotations to give Rival the leg up after having a slow start against SK Gaming. And there's just been so much damage coming through from FineOK throughout this whole phase. He's found so many solo kills, has been able to flex to the Circuit, the Hell. This is the player that SK Gaming have to pinpoint in this best-of-5 set.
Gotta give credit, though, to Captain Twig on this Batz in the jungle. 4, 1, and 4 so far in this game. In the top 3 on player damage too, but I think he's been a critical playmaker for the most part. With the pressure coming from left and right, he's outfarmed the Thanatos and also made more of an impact with how this has gone on. The Fear No Evils have been very useful at times.
I think he outfarmed because he has more mobility with the Talaria boots. Even though Sam Fasoka relies on his second ability for the steroid, it's only a temporary duration of movement speed boost, but Rival are using their AoEs now on the left side. Phoenix.
Double blink from FineOK and PolarBearMike, but they didn't really find a target they were after. However, NeilMah up and down with the dragon, and on landing, the burst is too much for Neil to handle. Belair spins around excitedly, but it's not much he's really going to do on King Arthur in this situation here. 2 blinks available, though. Thanatos has one. There's no one to really frontline is the problem that SK have here.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be struggling in a 4-on-5. Not only that, there's still a crushing wave available for Panda Cat. That damage has to be respected, as a level 17 Hobwa is still going to be providing the pain. And now NeilMah is reviving. I don't think there's going to be a wave in time before the 5-on-5, but even with NeilMah up, I don't think that's going to slow down Rival.
Well, only NeilMah can really frontline here, unless you see Belair blink in and make a play with the ultimate. But who would the target be? I'm guessing Panda Cat, but I think everyone's going to have a beads ready if required.
Yeah, so does Panda Cat, and having physical defense with the Breastplate of Valor, it's a hard question to answer if you're SK of how how to properly defend this Phoenix Siege.
Into the middle Phoenix they go then. Phoenix getting whittled down. Belair, meanwhile, not whittled down, completely deleted. Great silence from Sam Fasaka to stop Captain Twig. Only for a second though, just joking. He'll force Sam to the sky. All the while, Rival are on the middle Phoenix. And that's all 3 of them down now.
And also Neil to follow. The pressure from
That's it.
Rival is too much for SK Gaming to handle. Even through all the poke they received, they're healing through PBMs. Terra, it's been a big issue this game.
And the biggest problems I see here is SK Gaming found some wins on the left-hand side, but Rival just held their ground, and held their ground long enough for Fine OK and Captain Twig overall to turn it around for them and find them the W.
And this was a difficult game out of SK once the grouping from Rival happened. Keep in mind, there was no Gem of Isolation built from Fine OK yet. He was working on it as his last item. So it wasn't even Rival at their final form. SK Gaming were trying to go for this early to mid game strat, staggered once they looked at the right lane, realizing Fine OK was not the target they should have been looking for.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing that SK need to take away now is what really went wrong at stage of the game. Sure, the definite talking point is Fine OK surviving the 2v1 play, allowing Twig to get in there, and that's where Rival started to get ground. But no discredit towards Rival there. They found that window through Fine OK and Captain Twig to get control of the game when they were down in the early.
And it was a nice attempt, I think, to still try to gank Fine OK because he didn't have actual physical defense outside of the evolved Warrior's Blessing. The issue was the 3 forms of healing. The Zhong, Kui, second ability, you got Warrior's Blessing, and Pythax piece. That 24% magical lifesteal brought Fine OK right outside of the execute threshold. And what I think SK Gaming needs to do for the next time is wherever their strengths are, which was on that left side of the map, just to lean on it more. Get those Furies.
Well, the one thing is everyone was talking about this this week to do with the fact that all the game is going to be very early and very scrappy. It was just that. Let's go to the desk to break down game 1.
Great point there, Hindu man. I heard from PolarBearMike, he said this is going to be a blowout one way or the other, and it did kind of end up being that way in Rival's favor, and that's just because SK take those big swings and it didn't quite work. For me, this started with Zatman, though, on the Morrigan ADC, which I actually think I would say worked for what they wanted, right? It got pressure against Arkle in that matchup, even a solo kill, he was bullying him out, but they couldn't hold on to that pressure.
Well, that was the problem, is that Zap got pressure in duo, and then no one really came over to do anything about it. It was like SK was just content that, okay, cool, Zapman's winning his lane. Let's try to create even more leads elsewhere. And I think that was, I don't want to call it greed, but it was a little over-ambitious by SK, it felt, to try and look for consistent ganks against Fine OK over there in solo. And in fact, I think that initial gank against Fine OK, where Twig comes through on the backside and just gets an easy double kill cleanup because Fine OK survives for so long. Unfortunately, not able to show the part where Fine OK bought enough time for his jungler to rotate over, but the impact is what was really felt from that instance onwards, because Belair just could not match the sustain from Zhong Kui. And I know that sounds absurd to say when he's playing the King Arthur, but my man's went for the Blackthorn Hammer. I think he got a little bit baited out by Blackthorns over the Glad Shield, because if you're trying to do a war of sustain against a Zhong Kui, you want the item that gives you sustain.
It's so interesting because he talked about it, right? When you pick up Blackthorn Hammer over that Glad Shield in that slot, when's the next time you can pick it up, especially against a mage in that lane? It's probably 4th item, because you got to get boots, then you got to get some magical defense to help you out in that matchup. Then maybe you can get it, but that's too late. And we saw he wasn't even trying to go into it at that point. He recognized you can't buy Glad Shield here. So I do think that hurt them. That wasn't the only thing, though. I mean, Fine OK was able to start rotating over ahead of Belair, but Sam for Soccer, his relevance started to fall off considerably when you compared him to the unbots from Captain Twig. The Fear No Evil control got way out of control for this team. I think eventually Arkle was able to start holding his own a little bit better against that man, too. There was a lot of problems across the map.
Oh, honestly, Finch, it was all off the back of Fine OK, though.
Yes,
I know that Rival came through with the follow-up that they needed, of course, and score lines might not be as, inclusive of Fine OK being in such a huge involvement for Rival's teamfight engagements, but when you break down every single one of those jungle fighting moments, I think that there was just a lot of instances of SK getting choke pointed and not really knowing which direction to try and separate, but SK would separate, and that in itself was a problem because they needed somebody to be dealing damage, or just consistently as a team to be dealing damage, so Sam for Soccer could actually utilize that Thanatos execute, but that really fell off heavily by the time Final K started making his involvement more known.
Yeah, that first rotation from Final K where he comes over to fight in the middle lane is where exactly your point about Sanford Soccer came through, because he is over in the air looking for the hovering death, looking for an execute, but absolutely no one's low enough for it. Part of that is because Final K just is so far ahead at this point that they couldn't bring him down low enough to complete the kill. They're able to go find Zatman, who tried to rotate over. They're able to lock down Neil as well. And that's another thing. I don't know that this Fafnir did enough for me in this composition. I think Fafnir's good, especially in the dragon form. He's probably one of the best supports there is when he transforms, but I just don't think I saw what it was supposed to do in this comp for them.
I think it might have worked a little bit better had solo lane not kind of been a little bit of a runaway train,
Yes.
but I'm right there with you. I think that SK had an idea of being able to control the objectives, using Zatman maybe to transform to the Hachiman, even get that Heavenly Banner as an additional stim, but whatever the case, it just fell short here, and the execution was just too off for SK to properly utilize that plan.
Yeah, maybe the Fafnir's like a fire extinguisher, but there never was a fire, so they didn't even have a chance to use it. Maybe it's something like that, right? SK will be the first pick as we move to the picks and bans now for game number 2. Rival will have the chance for that final pick, and they're up 1-0 in this matchup. There's so many strong picks still here for these teams to move through, but so far things look fairly standard. The Freya ban we saw last time, the Horus ban was one we saw last time, remember, but the Terra ban, this is different. They're not going to let PolarBearMike pilot this Terra again.
I think that Terra was just too controlling on top of the Zhong. It just made it feel like it was impossible, I think, for SK to actually try and escape. But they're going to stand true with that Muzen Cop first pick, and I have to wonder if Rival's going to respond with an early pickup of the Chronos, because that was actually what SK prioritized in that secondary banning slot from the first two. So this could be a soft challenge, I think, to SK. Actually go for it.
Exactly. Can you pilot this Chronos? Were we right to give you the respect on it? I think Rival have some time here where maybe they even have to take it, because if they leave it up, you can put the Muzen Cobb in mid and put Chronos in the long lane, even pair something like a Fafnir with it, and all of a sudden it makes a lot more sense because you're accelerating both of those basic attack focused gods. So yeah, this makes a ton of sense. Rival almost had to take this away because it would give SK too strong a composition response. This Amaterasu, on the other hand, is very interesting. This feels like a PBM special to me. He likes to play it, but I can see this for fine too.
First thing that comes into my mind, though, Finch, is movement. There's so much mobility already just between Chronos and Amaterasu alone that I have to wonder if their intention is just going to be run circles around the Muzen Cobb instead.
Pick up some Bumbas, Taco, right?
I mean, I'm not going to hate it for Chronos.
Right, Chronos
it's a little debatable. I can make an exception for the Boombas pickups on Chronos, but it's a flexible first two options for Rival here, and I think it also kind of forces SK into maybe revisiting that Fafnir yet again for NeilMah, because I don't think that it's worth taking the chance of letting Rival get Fafnir, Amma, and Chronos in their top 3, because the objective potential there is just so restricting, I think, for SK, and I doubt that the last thing SK need is another option for Rival to have a free initiation against this Muzen Cobb.
Exactly, and that's what Amaterasu gives you. It's so difficult to peel off her dazzling offensive. That ultimate can just kind of hunt down immobile characters like the Muzen Cobb pretty well, so maybe SK do want to have someone there that can safeguard to some extent as the Fafnir comes through. And I think you're right, Taco. I mean, just like Rival were kind of forced to get the Chronos to take it away from SK, I think SK probably had to get the Fafnir.
I was hoping for a Hell.
Yeah?
I was really hoping for a Hell there for Paul, but it's going to be the Soul instead. Starting to wonder if this Soul might be for Zatman instead.
No, Zatman wants Morrigan. This Soul's in the jungle or something.
I mean, with the way that things have been going lately, Finch, don't get too crazy on me, man. They might actually hear you. I would not put it past any team at this point to go a little bit too deep into that unknown. But I think that this is still good from SK because of the fact that they have the Fafnir. Soul and Muzen Cobb are certainly two characters that, if they're left alone for long enough, Rival can't afford to not have vision over objectives or even structures.
Right.
I think it's even threatening if SK are able to rotate or out-rotate Rival, because if they get even the slightest bit of tower push potential, that tower could just be gone.
Do you think that Rival then want a physical hunter in this composition to pair with the Chronos, or do they still want a big mage on this team on the side of Rival to try and give to Pele in that middle lane?
I think I would like to see a Raijin or even a Zeus possibly for Panda Cat still, but the thing is that Rival do have that flexibility option because Panda Cat could play the Chronos, but Arkill could play the Chronos too.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter which of the two gets it either because I still feel that even if Arkill wanted to play a mage, for example, it would probably work out for Rival here. They have so much control already from the Batz Fear No Evil that if I think if there was more emphasis on escapes from SK's composition, we probably see an Ares from PolarBearMike here, but since that isn't an option, I am kind of leaning towards this Amaterasu perhaps being the support pick option already.
I think so.
For PBM, and if that's the case, then Rival are probably just going to leave their last pick one more time for Fine OK. I'm not guaranteeing that it'll be a Zhong run back, but whatever Bellona decides to opt for in solo lane, I think that Fine OK is just going to look for the aggressive team fighting option.
Well, it looks like SK disagrees. They banned the Khepri out, which would make sense in a world where you think that the Amaterasu then is going over to the solo lane for Fine OK, and then that PBM would have been playing this Khepri. I think that there is still some flex potential there. Even though I think it's more likely Ama goes to PBM, it could easily go both. So SK are kind of stuck in this spot where they have to be prepared for both of those eventualities. Rival, on the other hand, can just look right towards the jungle and ban out something like a Robin, ban away this Camazotz, which could be in the jungle, could be in the solo lane. They have a much easier way to tell what stuff is still open for SK. They have mid, hunter, support. They still need jungle and solo.
Well, one thing's for sure. I think that if SK are banning Khepri, it means they're not planning on taking Thanatos again for Sam, because the last thing you want to do is take away a guy with an execute. I like that SK are also removing the Ganesh, so possibly thinking Pele's on the board right now if SK want to take that, and I think that it would also go hand in hand with some of the pressure that SK is already trying to opt for, because minus the Soul, I think that Fafnir and Muzen and Cobb, I mean, early to mid, that's their territory to really try and rein in and look to suppress that Chronos Batz early on.
And we saw last game, though, Rival are okay with giving up a little bit in the early game. We always talk about how do you take the losing matchup well. It kind of was like a memes that we said about like Demi and Kiki a lot in the past. But I think that's what Arkill did in the last game. Even though he was up against the Morrigan and it was a ton of pressure for him to deal with, he was eventually able to start playing around it smartly, even when SK rotated multiple people over. So that's kind of, I think Rival are, even if they do end up behind in pressure, they know how to play from there.
Only a matter of time, though, before Ullr finally gets locked in. Arkill tired of being bullied by Zapman, I think, in that duo lane. Going to try and do a little bit of the bullying himself this time around. And Ullr's got really strong objective, or I shouldn't say objective, but buff control. And that's the one thing that I think Rival really need to keep an eye out for, is not letting SK run rampant through their jungle in the early game. Because if SK gets those buff timers, you can bet that they're going to try and harass Rival at them as often as they're available.
This is a scary composition, though, that SK have managed to draft for themselves. As Baron hovered by Rival, I doubt that this one gets locked in at this point, especially when they already have the Chronos, the Ullr.
Solo lane.
Maybe they'll put it over in the solo lane, but is that enough pressure? I mean, right now they have some good forms of pressure early, like in 1v1 matchups, like with the Ullr, but that's about it. I mean, can you afford to put a Baron here on this team?
I think that Baron could work perfectly fine for Rival. It'd be execution heavy, of course, but you have to keep in mind SK's composition was execution heavy in game one as well, and they fell flat. And because of that, Fine OK was really able to rise up on that mage Zhong and deal some heavy backhanded blows to SK that they were not expecting for him to have so much control so early on. It's just like mini snowball effect, but I like the Baron for the sustain here, and it's going to prevent gods like Osiris and Pele from wanting to get so up close and personal, because if Baron's able to utilize that life of the party and suck everybody in, can you imagine the trickle-down effect when a Fear No Evil, Ullr burst damage, Chronos spam comes after the fact? There is so much control, I think, with this Baron added on, where it's a little bit of risk, but the reward could be heavy.
Now the question becomes, how well can this Osiris and Pele pressure out this Baron then? Are they going to be able to get over there and slow him down in the early game? Because like you said, if Rival yet again make it to the team fighting stage, then I feel really, really good about the comp. But SK had the potential to burn down objectives, burn down structures very, very cleanly. If they ever are the ones sieging, it would be hard for Rival to stop.
I'm interested to see who gets the better end finish, but right now, Rival, God, they're looking good, but SK is definitely looking better than game one.
Okay, slightly leaning maybe a little bit towards SK then?
I'm leaning a little bit towards SK with that one.
All right, well, let's see how it works then. Back over to Hindu and Toli.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, funny thing is here, I see two compositions on paper here, and on a surface level it looks really simple. SK Gaming are going with the double hunter composition of Fafnir for the power, but Rival have drafted a movement speed comp here. I said it to you, but then they lock in Baron, and that just adds to the movement speed even more.
And there's flexibility between the Baron and the Amaterasu. Like, where's they going to go? We saw PBM being very animated during that last pick selection because it's a flex pick between Final K, Mr. Dabber, against PBM. It's a style.
Totally. Is this a Messenger's Bombers mask game for every member of Rival, potentially?
I'm not going that far.
Look at how much mobility they've got, man.
I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but this is smart to put Final K on Baron instead of Amaterasu against the Osiris from Bel-Air. It was banned away in game number 1 by SK, actually. There was opportunity for Rival to pick that if they wanted to, but they wanted to try to match the pushing power from Paul as a Muzen comp, going Ullr for Panda Cat.
Really interested to see both the supports and, well, Hunter position, I should say, mages, going for the boot start here this game. PolarBearMike getting aggressive, but with Bel-Air here, this is a terrible spot to be in. Luckily, Mike hadn't leveled ability yet, so can dash away. He's buying time.
He got slowed.
But NeilMah has wrapped around the back. That's going to cost him his horrific.
Slowed
if he
again.
escapes, that's not too bad, I guess. I mean, sure, it cost him a relic, but he did buy some time to allow Rival to be in a position a little bit better than that of SK Gaming here. And now Neil's trying to defend the blue buff on the right-hand side. Zapping our kill. They're going to trade blows consistently on these mages.
Paul couldn't really chase that with the speed buff respawning. NeilMah saving his stunts and maybe even kill out PBM if he gets off enough basic attacks. And this is what supports do best in Season 6 is to harass.
Did he get it? No. Fine, okay. We'll pick up his own blue buff. The hammer from Neil did connect, but it wasn't enough. All the timing was just slightly off there. So blue buff at least secured on the right side of the
The whole wave is gone completely. There, granted, there was no experience received by NeilMah by harassing, but severely crippling out already the support solo from Rival.
Yeah, but at the same time, we'll see how that has a knock-on effect if it continues. Sam, though, going to get aggressive in the jungle here. Take away the back harpies on the right-hand side as as Captain Twig, I should say, that Batz makes a visit to the left momentarily. No real surprise to see Twig maybe lean on this side a little bit in the early game now with how well Zap performed in game 1.
That's right. Knowing the strength of SK Gaming wouldn't be a bad idea to shut that down or maybe leaning on your strength, but I don't really see Final K finding anything in the early game against Bellera's Osiris, so there's no reason for Twig to hover on that side of the map.
More importantly, when you see Neil that deep in the jungle on the right, you might as well go and abuse the lack of people on the left-hand side, and that's what he's done. Back harpy's taken away. You can see him start to rotate behind Zap, who just got hit pretty heavily there. Is Disapparate available? It is. He's going to need it soon. The jukes are required, and the jukes are there, but will he get away still? He looks just in time, and I love the fact that Mike had rotated too. Just sat on the edge of the jungle there, totally made sure nobody could come on through.
This is why Soul is going to be more popular, the Disapparate. Zero's played a lot of Soul the last week. Instead of the Chronos, actually, there was opportunities for him to lock that in if he wanted to, and his ability to survive is the reasoning that it's prioritized over the Chronos. And that's why SK Gaming gave up the Chronos, first pick in the Muzen comp, knowing Rival would get Chronos, knowing that SK would respond with the Soul, still synergizing very effectively with the Fafnir.
Funny enough, the interesting first two picks of like Chronos and Amaterasu. When Amaterasu got locked in, I'm like, that's such an early pick.
It was.
For an Ama, that started giving me the idea of like, well, maybe movement speed could be the way to go. And when Baron came in, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is definitely like zooms.
This is the power of going second pick, is your ability to lock in the guts, such as Amaterasu, and still flex it in the support position. PBM has a lot of experience with Amaterasu in Season 4. When there was like a lot of aggressive pushing into the purple buff invades, but now transitioning that over to the Soul lane, Amaterasu still has a lot of strength with the Aura, and I think PBM wanted to go the Aura level 1, but once he got ganked, he had to go the dash.
Very interesting matchup in the solo lane too. Obviously, Baron, don't see too much in the solo lane, but only here and there. Starting to mainly get played more than anyone. His rival, the ones that still value this Baron pick. But against an Osiris in the laning phase, a tricky matchup for both, I would say. Just because one technically does have sustain, as you can see there, but the other one has a lot of slows, a lot of CC chains, and an ultimate that will reduce healing to 0.
Bellera can still heal himself a little bit through use of the Warrior's Blessing if he picks up the Glad Shield, which I'm expecting. A lot of basic attack warriors will prefer Berserker Shield, but honestly, I don't want to get close to a Baron as an Osiris until I'm very healthy. So in this instance, Bellera's going to have to back off.
We'll just see how much pressure is going to be in that lane, because clearly FineOK wants to keep the aggression from Belair rolling. You'd expect that against an Osiris anyway. But he's also gone for the support option here with the Guardian's Blessing, so he wants the minions to die to themselves. FineOK mid, axe off the mark there. He's a bit rusty on the old Hunters these days with this mid lane mage playing, you know, in the mid lane. It's a bit different.
It's been a little different, but if anything, it's impressed me how PandaKat's transition to the mid lane wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Interesting trade here, and Zapman getting punished heavily. Welcome back, Arkle. I knew this lane was going to be spicy all day between those two. And then that's just Arkle saying, you know what, game 1, fair play, Zap. Game 2, okay, this is what it's like in response.
Zapman actually didn't use any defensive relic. Like, he didn't beat, he didn't use his ultimate to buy him time to maybe disapparate away, instead holding that for a rainy day.
Is that respect to the fact that, well, if he beats, he's going to disapparate afterwards? Does he just respect Arkle to land all his attacks? Is that what it is, while he's trying to transform?
It could be, but that's a split-second decision. If anything, I'm trying to look for those split-second decisions of how to survive, but Zapman, not once to get slowed down for a majority of the game, going to have to be a big hill to climb from here on out with this 1-level deficit. I think Arkle wants to give Zapman a taste of his own medicine from that last game.
Well, so far, just that first blood has happened. It's about 300 gold lead for Rival right now with how it's looking. And that first blood for Arkle, more importantly. This could really change up the state of the game here with how game 1 went. Mike going to get aggressive at Zap. And the other thing about the beads, I guess, is if he uses them, he's going to get pressured some more by this hammer and even the Hun Batz.
That's right, the dazzling offensive going to be forced from PBM on every single rotation. A very long cooldown, 160 seconds on those beads, but does use it there, actually.
Yeah, he uses the stun, but Zapman used the ult at the same time to get CC immunity to cancel out that stun, importantly enough there on that left-hand side. The tower blocks the imagery, just so you all know at home before you're like, wait, what? Ghost? Arkle's OP! Well, Zhong was in the last game. He's just a ghost version.
Yeah, no ghost this game, so you don't have to worry about that one. But we're seeing this rotations because of the mobility out of the Amaterasu.
Yeah.
He was just over there on the left side already, ping-ponging on the right.
And now pressure onto Belair. Gets hit by the Fatal Weevil 2 and the stun by Mike after the fact. Great combo by the support and jungler out of Rival, pinching on the right-hand side to kill Belair. And that ends up giving him a tumble in the solo lane.
Looking at the cooldowns of the ultimates, Belair and FineOK traded out ultimates about 50 to 60 seconds ago. I'm assuming FineOK used that ultimate, and then it forced Belair to jump away. And even though Amaterasu is always considered this late-game goddess, she's also good in the early game by playing setup with the dazzling offensive. So that's why PBM makes these crucial rotations, abusing cooldowns not available.
Keep an eye on the builds coming through, though, because last game people were talking recently about how Belair built in last game on that King Arthur. Didn't go for the Gladiator Shield, which you can understand when you're against a magical, right?
Sure.
And you went for the health option. He's gone for the Blackthorn Hammer again. Makes a lot of sense in Osiris. It's guaranteed cooldown reduction for the most part. And if you do lose your blue on cooldown, which you shouldn't be realistically as an Osiris, you've got the regen there.
And you need to match the cooldowns from FineOK whenever you're trading ultimates.
Neil in the mid lane going to get aggressive on Mike. Mike's got a ton of damage there, but Mike's still playing aggressive and up because he knew Twig was coming. Paul recognized the situation though and got away, but NeilMah still closed the gap with the support of Sam and Zap onto PandaKat. Now Twig in trouble too. 2 kills for SK. This is looking good for them. They'll get the oracles. Can they do gold here?
I don't know. Dazzling Offensive is available now for PBM, which is what forced SK's hand after losing Belair not even 45 seconds ago. They wanted that revenge. This is what makes SK Gaming such a difficult team to always get an advantage against. Not only that, Zapman, despite being experienced behind, made the rotation before Arkle.
You said his name and then Rival come on in and push him out away from his purple buff. He was just trying to get it off the cooldown and the respawn. Sneakily, cheekily take it before they spotted. Won't be this time round. Arkle then with a 1-level lead over Zapman in experience. Experience gains elsewhere. Just a small lead as well for FineOK over Belair at the moment.
And seeing how Arkle is building after this early pressure surprises me. The Book of Thoth for the Chronos, you don't normally think of Book of Thoth whenever you're playing Chronos. You're thinking of maybe Bancroft's talent, attack speed with the rings potentially to synergize with the Accelerate, but looking for more magical power and mana.
I will say the one thing I do like about SK's comp, we talked about mobility from Rival here. Samedi playing the Pele. Magma Rush can be useful. Hold that for though. Zap under pressure again. Disapparate! Please disapparate! Come up earlier. Mike gets himself another kill. Zap falls on the left-hand side. And Rival trying to get this one a little bit quicker than last game.
It takes 4 seconds to completely go into the invulnerable ball of Disapparate. So Zapman not able to avoid all 3 strikes of the Dazzling offensive, with each one successfully doing more than the previous one. A good look for Rival to extend their lead on Arkle.
Yeah, that's just nice little positional play from PolarBearMike to realize he had a small window there. Silence 2, don't forget, does stop you from casting abilities as a mage, so took an extra second for the Disapparate to be used. Beats still on cooldown there. Fell out on the right side, now got his boots online, so he should be able to keep up the mobility a little bit more against FineOK, who's invested in that breastplate of Valley here. Makes a lot of sense when you're against physical solo laner, physical jungle.
This is the standard cookie cutter build from Belair, but look where Captain Twig is. FineOK traded out his ultimate with Belair earlier, knowing Lord of the Afterlife not available. Captain Twig thinking about ganking the right.
Yeah, FineOK's doing a very good job of luring Belair in a little bit, but Belair was keeping an eye on the corner. Great ultimate from him, but the monkey toss, he smacks him with a monkey, waits for him to jump and goes, you know what, it's a fear no evil. And guess what, FineOK's there to put him in the coffin.
He just got that ultimate up. That's why FineOK stepped in the tower line. He's
really
like,
cool.
I have this ultimate coming up any second. I want it.
SK trying to turn it around now in the mid lane as Sam and NeilMah get aggressive on Panda Cat once more. All under a lot of pressure, and Sam will get credit for the kill. Magma Rush now on cooldown. Mike, meanwhile, was trying to keep Paul busy. Or should I say Paul was keeping Mike busy, because his life will be taken too.
A Muzen cop crippling the Amaterasu, nowhere to go. Even the Dazzling offensive wasn't enough to get out of that one. And SK Gaming, despite losing a member on the right, they have numbers advantage in mid and abuse Rival.
Well, Finna Weaver down for Twig and Blink too. You saw SK Gaming starting to group up around that Gold Fury, but it looks like Arkle may have overstayed his welcome here. He does have rewind and beads, has to beads early on, avoids the automatic zap that was there to follow up. And good work from overall from Arkle just to escape and not cost him too much.
See, normally you want to use a shorter cooldown of an ultimate, but in that case, Arkle makes the better play by not using the rewind. Otherwise, he would have been closer to the initial gank from SK Gaming.
Twig there, level 11 to Belair's level 10. You can see Captain Twig's Hombat's performances, and to be fair, the rise of Hombat's this year has been pretty impactful, I would say, Tolly.
It definitely has. It's just team fights because of how long some of these games are going. That's one part of it. Hombat's not known for his early game clear, so you're definitely not picking him to out-farm the Pele.
Oh, Mike under a lot of pressure here, and that's the problem that Sam's going to bring with the mobility. The stinger from Paul was beautiful, by the way, crippling him out, so he had to use the ultimate.
I'm not really sure what Mike was doing there in the first place. Very aggressively positioned without any real support beside him. That's not where you want to go as an Amaterasu. Even when you have mobility from your aura, your dash, and a Dazzling offensive, he still gets knocked down by SK.
Well, this is Sam starting to step up a little bit for me now. Sam Fasaka really struggled a little bit on the Thanatos game, I'd say. Didn't really find what he was looking for and has looked a little bit awkward in a game or two. But this one, he's realizing that he's got to start taking this himself here. On this Pele, he's the one that can really chase down these kills.
And NeilMah allowing that kind of damage to come through with the stuns, the Fafnir stuns into the cripple from Paul. You're keeping one target locked down that long. This Pele damage just going to really start shining, especially with the Crusher to accelerate it further.
12 minutes in then, all pretty much square here as it stands. Gold is marginally different. Experience, well, there's leads in different areas, but it's just leading Rival's way for now. On the right-hand side, they're now looking for the blue buff once more against Belair, and that'll be stripped away by FineOK Captain Twig. And they've also got a bit of support in mid if they need it, as Panda Cat and Mike were around, and Twig gonna blink on in there. Just couldn't find the window for the ult. It was definitely an idea.
It was an idea, a smart idea not to jump in any further. He's like, all right, well, I would put myself in no man's land if I were to commit this deep. So Rival look for step 1, don't want to commit to step 2. They still have a good team fighting presence, even without Captain Twig's blink to bait people out. Panda Cat with his stun. FineOK made a lot of great rotations in game number 1, but slowing it down now in game number 2 with 40% cooldown reduction with Genji's Guard as his third cooldown item. This is where FineOK is going to start rotating.
Solly as well with this Fafnir on the squad, as well as Sol. And, well, basically all of them are very auto-attack focused for the most part here.
Sure.
The Fafnir game and SK's late game is really strong if they can get into a good 5-on-5 here, but they just lack, I guess, AoE, ultimates that are going to make a big impact in a team fight is what I want to say.
Well, they have Sam for Soccer.
True.
That Volcanic Lightning's going to have to come in clutch. I think the AoE damage from just abilities between Paul and Zap could go a long way, despite not having the ultimates, but this is where Rival are going to have to respect that late game and force it out.
Sam for Soccer being very respectful of the Fear No Evil from Twig, and NeilMah after the fact turns afterwards, avoids a lot of damage actually with that transformation. And Rival will be happy with the result there if you think about it. PolarBearMike, Twig did use their ultimates, but Sam had to use his, as did Neil, and they go straight to the Gold Fury Rival. And SK Gaming caught with the pants down. Nobody was around.
And that was without both soul laners. Rival winning the 4-on-4. You would think that it would be SK Gaming doing that objective with the double hunters, with the Fafnir to accelerate it further, but knowing Neil used that ultimate, seeing how Sam for Soccer had to use Volcanic ultimate defensively, Rival abusing all the cooldowns.
SK getting aggressive in both lanes now, mid and the right-hand side. Fine, okay, juking around as long as he can, but the tether from Belair will stun him for now. However, still alive. Remember, Breastplate of Valor and extra Oni Hunters as well if required. Twig off the mark with a somersault, and Belair may have just slipped the noose there, luckily enough. Cancel that, Monkey Toss, tether online again, tries to slow him down. Tomaku, help me out, buddy! Spawn time! Twig says none of that, son! Blink over the wall! One more attack will do it. Is anyone gonna help him out? Any time to... Thank you! No, Sam, don't die for it, son! No, this is a calamity! A go! Oh no, Paul! Oh, I don't know what I'm saying! How am I casting this anymore? Totally, it's all gone wrong!
Oh, Twig is having to retreat now with NeilMah around the corner. What a chase! Cue the Benny Hill
I'm
music
so
theme
confused!
song. Belair survives that long. For Sam to sacrifice himself, I don't know about that one. You don't want to lose your jungler.
Totally, I just don't know if Belair's like, hey, can anybody help me, please? Or he's like, I'm dead, and they left him alone. But he kept living. And then Sam goes, well, you're on 2 health, so now I'll help you out. And then dies instead.
It's so difficult to kill a level 15 Baron Samedi with that much defense, that much cooldown reduction. Even though Final K got stunned under his tower, he got off the heal at the last second, putting Belair in like Bermuda Triangle.
I've seen some things in casting through the years, right? That was a weird one for me.
Also, by the way, Captain Twig jumping on Belair.
Yes.
When you have positioning on him, why are you jumping where he has to come to you?
In fairness, I think Twig, like, that was the only small mistake Twig made, I think, was the original somersault. After that, he played it very well. Sam now trying to turn it around, but Twig, Fear No Evil will keep him alive. Belair should be able to secure the kill. No, Paul turns up with the swarm. SK now grouped as 4 on this right-hand side. Pyromancer is available, but there's a couple of members of Rival still knocking around.
Looking for a little bit more is Belair onto Final K. Doesn't have mobility. The chase is on.
But Final K is going to have to cough in extra protections for a second. But a bit of a magma rush out of Sam for Soccer. And some volcanic lightning that's very, very frightening will push back Rival for now. All the while, left-hand side, Arkil is pressuring onto Zap and taking a tier 1 tower.
You gotta lean on whatever your strengths are. So I respect the fact that Arkil's not rotating, keeping Zap in check, and knowing how immobile Final K is. SK Gaming abused that factor. Taking too much pressure was Captain Twig before the fight. He didn't really have that much mana. He needed to back way earlier.
Now SK Gaming are pretty even still. Rival are up, obviously in terms of gold. Just keeping on that mid lane. Paul now 3-0-3 on this AMC. Sure, Rival are winning the game total, and you can feel it ever so slightly, but I think this AMC could be the crutch that SK could turn this quite easily.
Could be a crutch onto Sam for Soccer, gonna get stunned out.
crutches.
And this is a level 13 support doing that much damage. Rival looking for the follow-up, but don't have the positioning.
Good work from Sam and Belair actually just to get away, because Sam doesn't have any relics just yet. That could put Belair under pressure, but they're not going to go for that. Instead, they went for the blue buff steal. This time around, though, I don't think that's successful.
As good as the Muzen Cobb is in teamfights that you were alluding to, I think Zap on the solo is going to be a little bit more dangerous that Rival have to respect. Going for Hasten Ring now with this demonic grip.
But are you as worried about Zap right now when you've got Arkil, who's a matching, if not a further ahead than him in terms of build and pace?
Even if you are matching him, Sol is still going to be clipping away at your tank and front lines. Unless you're going to have Arkil hit Zap.
Gotcha.
Then you still have to respect Zap's damage.
I'm just waiting for the let's go out of Arkil at some point where he turns up to a team fight and the zoomies will begin.
Sure, but he doesn't really have that much mobility outside of his accelerate.
And his teammates.
That's true. Yeah,
That's the other thing.
Yeah, he could use PBMs or so maybe that's why he's not going for the rings, actually.
Yeah,
trying to go for the Book of Thoth, and at this point, getting the mana also from Pythax piece and the Shoes of Focus, getting extra from that 9% mana conversion into power.
And FidoK also going for Sprint here too, just to add to that effect as time goes on. Heavily agility can be popped and abused quite well. Panic at the mid lane though, still struggling a little bit here. His build's coming along slowly but surely. At the moment, more like the Executioner up next. But he's been pressured out consistently with how this has gone. So, state of this game, Tolly. Game 1, you know, we saw FineOK got a lead, but Zap got a lead. This game, Arkil got a lead, but Paul got a lead. That's kind of where it's playing out so far.
It feels that way, but SK weren't able to utilize Paul's lead into anything impactful, and Rival,
so far,
at this point, were able to get basically a Fire Giant and almost close out the game. So still going to be that one big team fight around these objectives.
Mike as well going for the Blackthorn Hammer this game. He's going for the extra health, but also the mana regen. As long as Amaterasu has mana, she can fight. And also the fact that it gives you 10% cooldown reduction, not a bad situation to be in.
Never a bad thing. You want to spam the switching of your stances to be able to get the extra mobility, heal up a little bit more now, and the damaging aura to start this objective.
Rival very confident grouping this fight for this. Fury right in the face of SK Gaming. Mike took a lot of poke there from Belair and Paul though, and the sprint has been popped by SK. Rival get the Primal Fury. Sam to the back line looking for the knockup. Can't really find a home. PolarBearMike hits a 4-man stun! And Rival say, thanks boys, we robbed you, and now we're going to the pub to have a couple of berries.
That was the cleanest disengage I've ever seen. Even though there was no follow-up, deaths, abilities thrown that way.
Oh, fight on again though. Twig got aggressive on Zap. Zap uses Disapparate. Same time. Backline there was aggression too, but Zap takes down Twig, who over-aggressed. The Fear No Evil came out just a little bit too late. Arkil takes down Osiris, and NeilMah soon to follow to FineOK. Paul, however, does take down the healer, and now Pandacat under pressure too. Sam slips the noose, and Zap takes his life, and now SK are on the aggression.
But look at this, Arkil waiting for PBM to kind of regroup in this 2-on-2 left-hand side.
Totally.
Sam's going for the split push, being that low. Arkil can actually win this fight.
And Arkil
he misses.
the pressure onto Zap. Disapparate used. Arkil has to use the Aegis, but Zap was using Disapparate anyway. Paul coming on round. Bees does apply, and a stinger to the face takes out Arkil. Only Mike left standing. Tully.
He had to hit that.
Tully,
he had to hit the
but
time
the
stop.
Fury goes down the way of Rival, and Rival completely disengaged and are perfectly fine. And the next minute, Captain Twigs in SK's backline trying to make a team fight happen. What? It wasn't worth it, was it? Was it really worth it?
In hindsight, no, it wasn't. But the team fight was starting out to be clean. Both Zapman, Paul, Arkil, and Panicat were doing a lot of damage in these fights, but SK Gaming now are thinking about this objective.
Mike's here. Mike's got an ultimate. Looking for a stun. Gets it on Paul. Fire Giant's getting low. SK Gaming get the Fire Giant, and Mike will fall afterwards. SK Gaming now in a lead in this game. And to be fair, at this stage, Tolly, it's a commanding one with the Fire Giant on all 5 members.
It really is. It's not the enhanced Fire Giant, but it's still something SK Gaming can start snowballing with. The basic attack damage, as if it wasn't enough from a Muzen Cobb and Soul. Now onto these towers. If they can find the shots, it'll melt like butter. Even Shogun's Kusari from NeilMah to help some of these sieges.
You're right about the Soul, though. Zapman started to climb in those standings in terms of player damage. But Paul in the mid lane on this AMC. The hover ward definitely caused problems for them in game 1 for him to start finding the lead, but Paul's positioning so far this game and damage execution has been solid.
The accuracy from landing the stingers as well. That's why he's the top player damage. And also spreading those bees, never a bad thing to match that damage. So looking at his build, he's probably leaning a little bit towards the chin size now to even get additional attack speed, burn some of these tanks. It was difficult to lock down FineOK with all the healing, but he has a little bit of health in his build to exploit.
Belair, a bit far forward here, has to be careful of the mobility, as I've been saying, out of Rival. Monkey Toss does hit him, and Arkil tries to follow up with a little bit of cheeky damage at the tail end, but no jump into the monkey this time from Captain Twig. They're not going to over-aggress here. I think they were just looking for a pick before the Fire Giant push from SK here.
Smart play, yeah. If they did find a pick, it would be
Slow them
easier
down,
to
right?
defend,
Yeah.
basically take away the duration of that buff, but not going to commit on only an Osiris that is level 18. They might have gotten the kill if they really wanted to try it, but it would not have been worth it.
However, Rival confident on defending their tower lines, funny enough. It's not often you see that against an FG buff around the whole team. Sanfasaka going to meet Captain Twig in the mid lane, And Sam's going to try and split the difference, but on the left-hand side, Neil took a bit of poke already. He does have a lot of burst damage onto the towers with the help of Paul and Sol, but Paul's going to be doing tower damage first to make that happen.
There's a good long-range poke and find. Okay, already going to start things off with a good stun onto Neil.
And Neil up and down, but dead on arrival when he lands down. Sam might be able to get a tier 2 tower in the mid lane while this is going on, but meanwhile, SK on the left-hand side are now in tatters. Belair used his ult over the wall to escape. Both Paul and Zatman are out and safe. But last time we saw this chase happen, casualties happen for SK. This time, he'll fall down. And we do see at least a tier 2 fall for Sam for soccer. Maybe even a tier 2 in right, actually.
Maybe. This is risky, though, if Sam does
he can
commit.
do
Even though
this.
Pele is really fast, he'll run out of fuel, whereas PBM can stay on that movement speed.
Let's find out. The speed chase is on. Sam on the run. Magi's cloak on cooldown. PolarBearMike round the corner with his own race car of his own. Dashes on in. Sam trying to buy some time. Knocks up just one member there. Arkell just got away from that.
No more
still
fuel.
running, still running. But guess who's round the corner? There's still Fine OK waiting for him if he gets past that. And in the end, Sam does fall down. But the good news is, they got a tier 2 in left.
Just like Belair sacrificed himself for the tier 2 in mid, now it's the opposite effect. Sam for soccer sacrifices himself to allow Zap to get the tier 2. And this is going to maybe even allow a Fury. Zap knows the timer, but somebody might have to defend the Phoenix until it was called that by Neil that Rival were no longer interested in pushing.
So the most important thing for SK's point of view really is they lose a fight. This is a split fight. It's a 4 in left and 1 in the mid lane. Doesn't work out, but at least they get 2 towers to make something off the Fire Giant. The only Fury has spawned, and funny enough, it's SK that gave it away here to Rival. Why did they do that?
They saw Captain Twig walk over the Sentry Ward, so they were like, even a Hunbats alone with a Fear No Evil is going to allow the rest of their team to follow up. If anything, I think Zap wanted Rival to keep pushing on the right, have Paul go defend, but Rival don't want to give anything back to SK Gaming, even a Primal Fury where Enhanced Fire Giant is difficult to kill, so that Primal Fury going to make it 7% easier to kill, and with the patch changes, you take 7% less damage from the objective.
Do feel SK Gaming so far this year, they're kind of the middle of the pack sort of team in the SPL. But the one thing is that they're a very good test for the teams at the top and the bottom, and Rival are trying to separate themselves by finding a win here today and give themselves a bit of distance between the middle of the pack and push themselves towards the top. But SK are definitely here to make sure that's not easy to do.
SK Gaming are definitely the team that tests your ability on the SPL in the middle of the pack. Belair should be okay here. Doesn't have a tier 2 tower, but I think Rival keep wanting to chase.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. Pull them all in. Neil gonna have to absorb it eventually. No, Belair ate most of it. Zatman did get his ultimate off though to try and dissuade some damage, but Belair's very low. Meanwhile, Panda Cat took out Neil, who was aggressing, and that's Belair getting pinched again. And that's the second time I've seen people die on SK Gaming when Belair was being run down like a dog.
They're not done yet, though. Sam for Soccer actually gets a nice knock-up, rewind, perfectly timed from Arkell. Right side, Phoenix being looked at.
Oh, that's going to go down relatively quick against Arkell on that Chronos. He'll make short work of that. A Phoenix on the right-hand side then at 26.5 minutes in the game. Fire Giant has respawned. I get to say, not an enhanced Fire Giant for the first time after 25 minutes.
That's right, going from 25 minutes to 30 minutes over the past patch. But Rival, so smart about not wanting to over-aggress with a Titan or a tier 2 tower in the mid. They have a small window to get this objective and then get the guaranteed ones after the fact. And you were talking about SK Gaming to be kind of like this litmus test of teams.
Yeah.
On their past history, they gave United a run for their money, going all 5 games, losing to them, but then also going all 5 games against Dignitas, a team that was undefeated at the time, beating Splice, even though they looked a little shaky, Splice. A 3-0 is a 3-0 at the end of the day,
Sure.
but then really slowing down the breaks by losing to Renegades last week, 0-3.
And I think that's the thing with SK, though. They just sit, I feel like they're just middle of the pack, 5 or 6 position overall. Some teams may beat them. They'll beat half the teams in the league for sure with how well they can play. But it's games like this where you feel like they have the control in their own hands, the destinies in their own hands. But it just seems to fall away in certain moments.
They could still clinch. There's some scenarios. They need a little bit of help. They need to win against Space Station Gaming the next week.
Well, we'll see if they can make it to Rameside. The moment Rival are battering down the Phoenix in the middle lane, trying to keep them all busy. Sanfrecce's out on the right-hand side, keeping the fire minions busy, even though still Rival grouped up as 5. Waiting on Relics a little bit here, no blink available for Captain Twig, so Engage is going to have to be manual here from Rival a little bit more so.
Look at Sam. Sam's thinking about looking for the flank. Blink up in 6 seconds, waiting for that opportunity. Also wanting to defend on the right side. A multi-purpose.
Coffin, a weevil from Twig goes in, and NeilMah is evaporated. Pele gets to the backline and gets a good tether off, but after getting pulled in by FineOK in the coffin, FineOK gets himself a double kill. Sam turns up at the tail end and does at least take down PandaCat, but PandaCat's not going to be enough to stop Rival assaulting the middle Phoenix.
Batman disapparates, was doing a lot of damage. Sam needed to find at least a second kill to make his life more valuable. Captain Twig was positioned very well to retreat from that one. Paul even almost going down, and with 3 clean picks, Rival looking so clean, still not interested in the end. With Paul and Salmon up, that's a lot of damage, and where Rival can die.
And this extra pick of Baron too, take into account there's some sustain for the team on this on Siege. And if you can find the consistent heal procs, his team are going to get topped up in health, not just by the Fire Giant. Zap on the left-hand side, trying to defend, and Zap on the left-hand side is no more. Neither is the left-hand Phoenix. Rival could potentially end off this push now.
Well, they still have Paul for damage. NeilMah has respawn to tank. Belair coming up now.
Do it, totally can they do it? I think Rival surely can. SK Gaming, they had a chance to win this one. They're going in on the Titan, still is getting low. Rival get it. 2 games to them, but it wasn't easy.
It wasn't as easy as the last game, but going, 27, 28 minutes, that's still a little bit under the average game length. Rival making quick work of SK Gaming the first 2 games. A lot of it came down to this Amaterasu from PBM, ping-ponging between the left and the right side, abusing Belair a little bit. It did look pretty. It didn't get anything off of it except for a retreat, but then they forced the issue after.
And that's the thing, like, they disengaged, which is what they were after doing there. Rival, though, up 2-0. They found the right windows at the right time. There was a couple of picks, I want to say, in that game where SK just seemed a little bit discombobulated, is the word I'm going to use, in terms of the communication or what the idea was. Are they going to let a teammate die, or are they going to go in and save him? And it didn't look like the communication was really there to discuss which was the right answer.
Despite picking the Muzen, the Soul, and the Fafnir, they weren't the ones getting the objectives because of how much pressure Zap was receiving in that lane. That solo kill was unacceptable by Zap, man. You can't die with your beats up. Even if you think you're still going to die anyway, you use your beats under your own tower to ulti later, or you just ulti rather later instead of using your beats. So he just died there, and I think that was avoidable.
What's the one thing that SK need to do in the rest of the games that are left?
I think that they need to have more presence out of Sanfrecce to get back into the set.
Well, let's see what the desk has to say about it. 2 games down, 2 games to Rival. Who would have thunk?
I think Toli's got half of it, and they're going to need a little bit more out of Belair as well. But Sam and Belair both, from what I'm looking, have looked a bit underwhelming. I'm right there with you on that one, Toli. Paul, for what it's worth, though, and a early game when the Muzen Cobb was actually pretty darn good. He was like 5-0-5 at one point there, or something like that. He was getting a lot of work done. Taco, when did this start to get away from SK?
Paul kept everything together for the most part, but even after SK secured that Fire Giant, they just weren't able to actually do anything with it. They send their carries to the duo lane, and sure, you get a lot of split push potential there, but why not just group instead? I thought it was rather odd out of SK that after they get the Fire Giant, the big objective, that this is what it's all about, and then suddenly they're like, yeah, but we're going to split up and try to push out every lane instead. And then they get picked, and after the picks take place, I think that is where that Fire Giant becomes irrelevant, because we saw the high mobility that this draft was capable of. This is what we talked about as well, and we saw it taking place in that initial drafting period. It's just there was no real escape potential for SK once one member got caught out. It just felt like it was a non-stop rush down from Rival every single time SK seemed as though they were about to get the ball rolling.
I definitely think there was a waterfall effect. I give a lot of credit to Captain Twigs and Batz. The Fear No Evil continues to be a big problem. But much like with Game 1, for me, this starts and ends with FineOK yet again, having another impressive performance in this solo lane. And I think we are starting to maybe see some difference, because Belair is a strong solo laner without any doubt, but FineOK has been having this kind of year where he's just able to make big plays. I was really questioning the Baron pick, man. I'll be honest about it. I didn't think this is going to work in his composition. But they got enough control out of PolarBearMike on the Amaterasu that I don't think they felt any weaknesses by having the Baron in there. He was able to keep them moving, able to find some control, and even sometimes able to get clean 4-man ults.
Well, something else that strikes me as really odd for this SK team is that they're allowing these sustain-based compositions to run rampant, essentially. There isn't really much prioritization from SK side of things to try and deal with anti-heal or to look for sustain options of their own. They just don't really seem to place a whole lot of value. And Finch, we were talking about this even as we were watching Game 2 take place, where SK, sure, they won a big team fight, they get 4 huge picks, and they're able to move into Fire Giant. And we notice, wait a second, there's no one with a bit of anti-heal yet. Sanford Soccer has a Brawlers, but when you compare it to what Rival were actually able to do with all of that healing, 1 Brawlers on a Pele alone is not going to be enough. That's not going to cut it. There needs to be, I think, significant adjustments towards anti-heal, and I think also taking Twig off the Batz. The Batz feels like a larger issue than trying to target Fine OK, just because of the fact that Fine OK, I think, has already proven it enough through 2 games. If you gank that lane, you're probably wasting your time.
Yeah, not a lot of successful ganks over there.
And then you just have Twig to come through on a free cleanup crew, and then Twig gets an instantaneous lead over Sanford Soccer, and then Sam's impact over the match is just like all but dwindled in an instant.
And it's interesting that you brought up that sustain point too, to go back to that, is that not just that it doesn't seem as though they value it in terms of building items against it, but just building it themselves. That Pele didn't have any sustain built in their build. Soul Eater's very often built on her something to help with that passive so she can get back out in a lot of those situations. It was really just all in on getting the damage. Remember back in Game 1, we never saw the Glad Shield for the King Arthur, right? And that sustain
as well
is so critical for him. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, it just feels as though they're not valuing the sustain or the healing that much on either side of the coin, and maybe that's just one of the factors that's hurting SK a little bit. It's a lot of different things. It's hard to nail it down, but I think there's a bunch of them where they could be cleaned up a little bit. And right now, Rival have been able to find their way in time after time and capitalize on those openings.
And not only that, but I think Rival's team fight potential as well is tending to be just a little bit stronger than SK's, because that's what their comps are prioritizing. They want to be able to finally make it into that 5-man grouping stage where they can just use everybody to swarm around a single target and then just chase down the rest. And it kind of just felt like Rival consistently kept those staggered respawn timers against SK, especially on that base defense, and Rival as well. They chose to play it safe, even unnecessarily to a certain extent. I mean, when they went for that left side Phoenix, they didn't need it. They probably could have ended as soon as they took mid down again, but it was just Rival still paying enough respects, I think, to Paul, because he was one of the last defenders, and now Muzen was 5-0-7 at the time, but I just don't feel like Paul or Zap have really had much of an influence at all throughout this game in comparison to what we've seen from SK when they put those 2 carries into the spotlight and chosen to prioritize making sure that Zap and Paul could lead the charge instead of just kind of trying to dump everything into solo lane. I think that they're just putting way too much emphasis on trying to suppress Fine OK, and it's working against them rather than for.
I agree, man. I mean, in Game 1, the Morrigan for Zapman looked good, yes, but since then, we haven't quite seen as much from on that Soul. Paul has looked good, I think, but I mean, Sam is the one that is slightly disappointing me, and I think throughout this phase, if I'm being honest, when this team was looking like the team that could, make a run at Worlds last year, he and Paul were looking like one of the best duos you could ask for anywhere, one of the best tandems working together. I don't know if we've quite seen that from these 2 here in this phase. So a little bit more has got to be stepped up from these guys all around the board. And I think SK are a team that are capable of turning this set around and getting 2 wins in a row and then getting us to a Game 5 or something like that. It's just that they've got to make some of these adjustments. Maybe picks and bans the place as you've already moved into it for game number 3. And this time, this is the adjustment SK are making. They're going to be the 2nd pick. They've given over Rival the 1st pick and a Muzen taken off the board.
I'm almost wondering if Rival might just take the opportunity to prioritize that Batz pick for Captain Twig.
Maybe so.
That Fear No Evil has just been so problematic, I think, for SK, because they're already floundering with trying to recover and trying to respond throughout the initial engagement, that they don't realize they're all just essentially grouping up, because the last thing SK wants to do is separate, but you also don't want to group up because of the fear no evils.
And it's the only constant in their draft. Let me tell you what everyone played between Game 1 and Game 2, right? Final K plays the Zhong Queen Game 1 and the Baron. Those two guys play pretty differently. Panda Cat plays the Hebo, then the Ullr. Those guys play so differently from one another. PolarBearMike, Terra, then Ama, Arkle, Chronos, and then he played the Hachiman. This is what makes Rival so difficult, is that everybody on this team can switch up their styles and their picks on the fly so much. So maybe there is some value if you're SK in stripping away that one constant that you can kind of pin down, which so far in this set has been the Unbots.
Freya, though, gonna stay maintained as a priority ban for SK. Clearly concerned, but
Oh, man.
Horus will finally get a chance to make his debut, and
It's time.
that has got to be one of the most terrifying first picks I could possibly imagine right now for SK to see.
So what are some things that you like, Taco? Do you like
Everything.
sustain?
Do you like damage, Finch?
How about knockups? Are knockups good?
Do you like setup and free utility?
What about the ability to move your whole team?
How about surviving for really long periods of time because you have tons of health?
And being able to dash to like teammates, like even like kind
does
of like
that heal them when you land to
It does
them?
do that. Yeah, it does all that stuff. Yeah, that all seems pretty good. So that must be like 2 or 3 gods we're talking about then, right? Or
No, that's Horus.
that's all just one. That's all just one Horus. Well, there you go. It's all there for Rival now. It's pretty good in this first pick spot. And I'm very curious where this is going to go. I imagine this will be support, but I have definitely seen some solo lane play. Final
they're
K can
fighting
even play
for
this.
this.
Yeah, you think
No
so?
way. Every single... Okay, Final K will Harley wants this god. You know Mike wants this
Oh,
god.
for sure.
I would not be surprised if Captain Twig thinks that he can do something in the jungle with it as well. So this is probably a pick that could go just about anywhere for Rival. But
That's right.
I think the fact
Oh,
that it
no.
has so much flex potential, and maybe Rival just want to completely headbutt SK even further down into the ground, but they
Did I
are
mention
going
Horus
for
also
the
gets,
Osiris.
also gets free protections, by the way, on his passive too? And then when the passive goes down, it heals him also again. Who do you kill on this team now between Osiris and Horus? If that's the front line, I don't know how you kill either one of those guys, because they do have some ability and ability to kind of move around throughout the fights quite well. Then you add in this Poseidon to add the Kraken. That's a big time burst ability in this game. Even if that gets immuned a lot by Aegises and that sort of thing, the Whirlpool is still pretty difficult to deal with on its own. That's going to shut down a lot of what Terra wants to do and Camazotz leaps. I like where Rival's at with these first 3 picks.
All I gotta say, Finch, is if this was a rank lobby, like hypothetically speaking, and I was on SK side, my client might unexpectedly crash.
Right, I
and
mean,
close.
what a weird
and not open
coincidence.
back, and
it
I
could
might
be.
just have to deal with Deserter. But needless to say, Rival got some good stuff.
It's a scary first few picks for this team, and then we still have very likely the Hunter and Jungler to worry about for Rival. So this is great from SK. I think this is good heads-up recognition to ban away the Unbots. Rival didn't prioritize it early on, but that helps them some to at least take this off the board, I imagine, Taka.
Yeah, but they got Horus.
He's good.
I'm sorry, Finch,
Undoubtedly,
but
I think he's good.
if I had to make a decision right now between the monkey or Horus, I'm picking Horus every single time. It's
course.
a no-brainer. You go for Horus if he's open, and it's scary to think that Rival did not. I doubt that they even care that Twig's going to lose his monkey.
I agree. I think that they would have picked it, though, had it still been available in the 4th slot. So SK got at least have to get that off the table.
Could be Osiris jungle, even. Once upon a time ago,
Sure.
Twig, I think, has always been a little bit more prone than some of the other junglers in the SPL to kind of stray or lean more towards like the warrior, something a little bit tankier, kind of like Cherio to a certain extent. And I think that Osiris jungle would be interesting here, just because I do feel as though there's a lot of snowball potential there alongside of the Poseidon, especially because if you have a Lord of the Afterlife to root somebody in place and then a Kraken immediately after the fact, even if you get a good Terra's ultimate off, it won't really do much for your teammate because there's no way to heal through that Lord of the Afterlife.
That's exactly right. And Rival will need some of that anti-heal with this Terra here, with the self-sustain from Camazotz, even Chronos. There is a lot of sustain to match some of what Horus can do. Perhaps that's why Rival's banning out this Hell as well, to not give that over to SK and let them lean entirely into more sustain as Ullr gets banned out, or picked up, excuse me, by SK. And with the Chronos already here, I then imagine that this Ullr would be for Paul and the Chronos goes over to Zap. Is that where you see these two going?
I think I would prefer to see the Ullr for Zapman here and the Chronos for Paul,
Okay.
because Chronos, I think, would have an easier time surviving through Poseidon and burst damage like that, but
Maybe so,
Ullr
yeah.
has, I think, higher kill potential in the earlier laning phase, so that might be one of the reasons why, if this is Paul taking the Ullr, he wants to just deal damage and look to maybe shut down the Poseidon before it really gets a chance to get moving.
Anhur being hovered here by Rival, this would give them some nice presence there in the dual lane if Arkle is looking to maybe box into this matchup, whomever he gets, the Chronos or the Ullr. In fact, if the Anhur can be with the Chronos, a lot of the times he can feel pretty good in that matchup, because once you get hit by the time stop, you still have room to use the Desert Fury and not get CC'd, so that could potentially be the idea, and try and get some pressure before the Chronos can move. But now they add in the Dodge E, and this could be good. There's not a lot of CC immunity available for SK, particularly this Ullr could really get bullied by this dodgy Pala.
I think the Daji only needs to really worry about the Ullr and the Terra. Terra is just going to be to displace her whenever she's trying to get set up going for SK and Ullr. That's just an easy punish. So it'll be up to Paul or Zapman to really keep track of where everybody's at on the map. Positioning is going to be crucial now for SK. And I'm not going to lie, Finch, that's a little scary to think about when you consider that games 1 and 2, SK haven't looked all that fantastic with their positioning today.
And what's really scary is that Rival kind of flipped the switch. This feels like a composition from Rival to me that could do pretty well in the early game for once. Up until now, it's been all about that team fight potential, and let's try and wait to the mid to late game. But this time, though, I mean, Anhur, Dodgy, even Horus, these are some guys that want to fight like right away. They got no problem battling in those first few levels.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, on paper, it's always easy to try and, gauge a judgment, but I honestly think that if Rival lose this game, I'll be surprised.
You'd be very so. You're definitely leaning heavily.
I am leaning heavily towards Rival with their comp.
Well, then if SK can get this composition off the ground, they've got a ton of damage here between the Chronos and Ullr. This Camazotz could be a potential problem too if he gets up into the sky. There's still a chance for SK, but I'm right there with you, Taco, leaning towards Rival. I wonder what the casters think, though. Let's get it over to Hindu and Toli.
I have never been as excited to cast a game in a long time. I love new gods for the most part, but there's nothing that really screams out to me in terms of all the gods we've had through the years more than Horus, who is, from my point of view, OP, and he's amazing. He's so much fun to play as a support, and I'm really excited to see how Mike pilots this here today in this game.
You definitely just wanted a new support god to have an impact in a game, and moving your team is nice, but you think that the other part of the kit is even better.
It ain't about the ultimate, baby. The ultimate is the worst thing in this kit, and it's still pretty damn good. I just want to see how PolarBearMike ends up piloting this. Interesting. Went for updraft at level 1. So at the start of the game, Toli, I'll tell you, right? Because this is my time of analysis.
This is your support, baby.
So because of the Pro League being slightly different, you'll see updraft get picked up over Fracture at the start. If you do your normal ranked games, best advice I'll give you, take Fracture at level 1 and all in the AD carry and watch them disappear in seconds. Okay?
That's the stun, right?
It's a stun and a protection shred, which is useful. But the updraft, is the ability that's going to do the best amount of clear in the early game. A knock up and then additional damage. You get an extra attack with a gust after the fact. But if you knock up the target and then hit them with the gust, you get bonus damage to get the clear. He's not the greatest at clearing camps, though. He's a little bit lackluster on clear, but his survivability and setup is almost better than anyone I know of.
And a little bit of slow after landing from that updraft makes it a little easier to chase that target, to hit the fracture.
That's not all yet. I'm not done.
Wait, there's more?
He's got a heal. And the heal isn't just a normal heal. It gives protections. But wait, that's not all, Toli.
Wait, there's more?
It also heals minions. It gives protections to the minions.
So you can play him with solo lane then?
I mean, sure, I guess. But his clear's a little lackluster. Maybe if you out-sustain your opposition, if they play low pressure, it can really make an impact.
Yeah, if you're playing against like Terra or Sobek, Xing Chen, then maybe play some Horus in your life. Fine, okay. Playing the Osiris this time around. SK wanting second pick. I think they finally figured out the strength of Rival is ideas. In the first 2 games, which was the flex pick. Second game, it was the Baron Samedi, and then the first game, it was the Zhong Kui. And that was the biggest 2 issues.
We'll see how this one works out. Arkle, though, up against Zapman in the duel. And Chronos versus Anhur here with how this one's looking out. Zap has really leaned on these mages in the duel lane so far. Arkle, however, started off with Hachiman, but then transitioned to the mages himself after realizing that Zap was going to go that route. But this time, Anhur, is this for lane dominance, I guess? Because that's what Anhur brings, right?
I think it's something about how the games progressed in the best of 5
Right.
set. First game, Zap solos Arkill. Second game, Arkill returns the favor. I think Arkill wants to get the better end of Zap if this does go 3-0. So there's no other god besides Anhur that does it better at solo killing.
Sam Pasok is on the left-hand side looking for a bit of gank pressure onto Arkill. The problem was he steps on a ward. Meanwhile, mid lane, Mike and PandaCat getting aggressive towards Paul. Definitely interesting to see Mike go for the blink option here. This is the blink updraft or blink stun combination that's available for him. Doesn't necessarily need it, but if you look at the comp that Rival have got, they really are just kind of relying on Twig engaging, which would be nice to have somebody else to be able to set up too.
And it makes sense to go blink because you can't always rely on your fracture dash to start off a team fight. I think starting it off with a knock up into a slow and then to clean it up with a stun makes a lot of sense.
Walls come out, but Mike will avoid them for now. Updraft after the fight didn't do too much there, just cleared the creeps out. Interesting enough to see what NeilMah went for on this Terra too. Went for the purification beads himself. He is up against a Dargy here, so that does make a lot of sense. And I guess the cripples out of PandaCat. So a lot of problems for a Terra this game.
Well, I think the Terra was picked to prevent the updraft a little from the Horus, the knockback maybe also from the ultimate, but then there's so many other options to shut down, like you were talking about. The cripples is the best way to shut him down.
I don't even spoke about his ult yet, though, have it?
Oh, no, we haven't.
You want to hear about the ult?
What does it do?
How about teleport your whole team anywhere across the map?
To the skies.
To the skies, indeed. Now, this is a little bit lackluster than you expect it to be, because when you're channeling this ultimate, you are on the ground stationary, and you still take damage. But once you land an identified target, you'll deal damage and get a shield, but also transport any teammates that are with you to that destination.
And also pets, I believe. Like
Yeah.
Artemis.
Yeah. We could see some real shenanigans with this god in the Pro League. And you know, if I'm saying, oh, that's a lovely Desert Fury out of Arkill there to force Zapman to rewind after the stun. But Arkill walked into a wall and was busy looking at that, and it didn't really work out so well.
Here's the thing. It might seem silly, but that's 200 IQ plays from Arkill. By standing on the corner, he's trying to give the illusion to Zap that he's going to go into the lane by still staying in the corner. Luckily for Arkill, he had 6 archers, so Zapman can't chase him down.
Nobody expects you to walk into the wall, I guess is what you're trying to say.
Pretty much.
So you're hoping Zap doesn't expect you to walk into the wall either, and then look to get the kill. Mike, though, starting to move to this left-hand side. With Rewind being down for Zapman here, there's definitely kill potential on a mage at this stage, especially with an Anhur in tow. But Zap seems to be smelling some danger, and rightly so. Maybe the wings gave him away. That's definitely the weakest thing of the kit, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Is the wings.
Not
Just
the
cut
ultimate?
the corners too much. No, there's a blink, there's a stun, there's a beads. Arkill tried to follow up, but the beads from Zap was on point. They had to be then, otherwise it was doomsday.
I thought for sure PBM was going to engage closer to the tower with the blink updraft, but instead Zap was too patient, and I think he didn't want to check the purple buff because there was no reason for him to check. He already had his purple buff for about a minute. He knows the timer of his own buff respawn. Great patience from Zapman avoiding the gank.
And even in support, Horus, basically you're looking for the 2, then hit the shred. Oh, Zap steps forward to avoid the knockup, but still eats the impale. Desert Fury, not every shot lands like Zapman can do, but Arkill still gets the kill and actually causes Zap to lose a whole wave of minions.
The difference of cooldowns between these two ultimates, 75 seconds for the Desert Fury, I believe a little bit more than 90 seconds on the Chronos, knowing that Arkill goes for round 2.
In mid lane though, PandaCat under pressure. Nice updraft from Mike to get him a bit of peel, but he's not going to heal in time. Sam swoops on in. Well, we've not even touched on this Camazotz in the jungle yet, as we watched Captain Twig get aggressive too. It's about sustain versus dot damage between these two junglers. And Sam has made a play happen in the mid lane. That's an important one too.
Captain Twig didn't have the pal out to abuse Sam not having the ultimate any longer, so making it at least 1 kill in response for SK after losing. Although on that side for Soccer could be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, all in by Mike and Twig at the same time. The aggression just too much, and Sam just didn't respect the amount of damage those two could do together, and didn't have any backup from Paul there at all. Funny enough, Rival ended up losing a couple of minions in mid, at least for Mike to share with Dargy, but the kill was more important, I guess.
It is important for Paul now to get a lead after the kill onto PandaCat. His Kraken's still a little bit down. That's why NeilMah playing aggressively instead of starting those left camps. SK Gaming, in order to get back into the set, have to rely on either exploiting the weakness out of Rival or leaning on a strength that they have for themselves. Right now, I think that the weakness might be Panda Cat, seeing how he's one level behind Paul. That could be one option.
But we saw that in Game 2 as well, Tolly, where SK did find a lead in mid lane. Paul got a nice, comfortable lead over Panda Cat, who got focused heavily, but it still didn't come to fruition at the end. I think SK needed to maybe switch it up, but right now, it's Paul under pressure as the blink from Mike gets the beads out of Paul thanks to the stun. Pressure once again for Rival in the mid lane.
I think going for game number 2 specifically, it was the Amaterasu that was a problem for SK to keep the pressure going. The mobility was just a little bit too much, and now they're still having issues from PBM support in terms of the Horus. It was constantly banned out over and over again by, I believe it was Rival in those games because they were second pick. So once they finally got first pick, they wanted to leave it open. SK Gaming must have knew that that was a priority pick for Rival at least.
The one thing about Horus overall, though, is to try and keep him... He's going to be low on the damage numbers overall. Early game will be where he gets the biggest swings in damage, but he really does end up putting out the same levels as a normal support Guardian would in terms of team play, especially with this sort of itemization you'd expect to see. His mobility is insane, and he's in the skies right about now. Where we going, boys? We're ganking right-hand side.
Oh, Paul heard it, or he saw it. Yeah, either way, he's just going to jump away wanting no part of it.
So seeing it is very, very tricky. There is a little shadow I've seen on the ground so far, and you get a little sound of takeoff of the eagle searching around, but other than that, it's a very sneaky ultimate, that one.
It looked very timely that they would have maybe gotten a kill, but Paul wasn't quite where they wanted him to be.
It's more to do with Mike having to predict a little bit about the pathing of people more than anything else. You can't just aim at a target because it takes 2 seconds for it to cast after you choose the destination.
And you're not moving at normal speed during the ultimate, right?
No, you're moving a little bit slower.
Does it scale with movement? So, like, can I build movement speed to make it faster?
No, nice try, though. I know you.
Like, if I sprinted first,
solo
like, what if I
laners.
sprinted and then I used to the skies?
But you're not using your feet because you're flying, which means sprint doesn't help. That's
it make your wing sprint go faster.
The devs right now are like, yeah, that's right, Hindu. That's the reason for it. But yeah, you can't go faster. It's got a travel time. You know, it's kind of like Freya. Freya mobility doesn't really affect it, does it?
I think Freya does. Yes.
Does it?
Freya does.
Okay.
Yes.
That's me learning something about Freya then.
I just wasn't sure about Horus.
Well, we'll see what he ends up going into his build. Looks like Thieves is going to be the first thing on the cards. Mid laners, though, Panda Cat already got a Divine Ruin online. Wanted to keep an eye on the anti-heal, I guess, just against this Terra and the Camazotz, too, who's definitely a prolific healer. The right side, though, Gladiator Shield up against Berserker Shield, Bellona versus the Osiris. As now there's an Eagles rally from Belair onto Fine OK as they were looking to strip away the blue buff. The blue buff strip was successful, but can Fine OK live?
They want to punish them for their transgressions. Captain Twig using the Palo, gonna get negated by that Lord of the Afterlife, but a good double pull.
This is a lot of engagement. Sam, though, does get to the sky. Sustain comes through as the Terra ultimate from NeilMah makes an impact. Sam takes out PolarBearMike towards the tail end, and Twig, oh, that was a ton of damage for Twig to eat there. That hurt.
SK Gaming, though, they're not done yet. They found one pick. They're not satisfied.
Split,
they want a second one, but Fine OK, very low, but he has that Osiris passive.
Yeah, this could be a bit of a problem here. Under the tier 1 tower, they go for the kill. They will find it, but that's a calamity, and I think NeilMah may die for it. Oh. Okay, we didn't catch that on camera, but I don't think Neil... I think he just got clapped, is what happened.
He definitely got clapped by the Terra walls. Belair dashing right before the epicenter of the Kraken. However, Panda Cat still has a lot of mobility, needs to hit the tidal surge.
Oh, it doesn't need to at all. He's got a Whirlpool. Sam, though, may punish Panda Cat for this. Luckily enough, PolarBearMike swoops on in. Updraft off the mark. Slow does connect, however, which sets up the Whirlpool, but the Whirlpool's positioning left something to be desired. Sam's not done, though, as NeilMah is on the rotation to fall back. Okay. We can settle down for a minute, Tully. 4-3. Rival have a small gold lead at the moment, but there's action everywhere.
That was just off of the invade from the blue buff. SK Gaming were like, how dare you take our blue buff? That's Belair's.
Yeah. But
punishing them.
The whole push from SK onto the aggression where they were under the tier 1 tower, they've chased Twig and they chase Fine OK at the same time. Sure, they get the kills, but it didn't work out the best case, Tully.
No, it definitely didn't, but Captain Twig hitting a nice double pull, they were just outnumbered. It was a 2-on-3 for too long that they couldn't take advantage of. Even though Captain Twig hit a nice double pull, Fine OK had to retreat under his own tier 1 tower.
Thebes online for NeilMah then. PolarBearMike still working on his. In the mid lane, Transcendence fully stacked for Paul and Boots online. Hasn't taken a trip back to base for a moment or two. We'll see where his build develops into next. More than likely the Odysseus bow we've seen so much this past year. But Mike in mid lane, lot of pressure onto him. Thanks to the help of Paul, but Twig in the aggressive eyes, purposefully using the Paolo to get a bit of peel for his support there.
Stunning out Sam for Soccer, preventing the chase, using that ability to get extra movement speed is never a bad way to go about things. I think that there was a missed opportunity, but PBM, like you mentioned, was taking too much damage. He couldn't follow up. Not really seeing too much from PBM this game, honestly, with the viability of the first pick.
Patience.
Horus hasn't really shown me much this game.
His early game isn't where it shines, totally. Patience, my friend, patience. I know I've been drumming it up a storm. There's rightful reason, okay? I will say, if he loses this game, I'm done with Horus. He's a useless god after this,
You think
know?
so?
I'll be like, he needs buffs, guys. I'll just be like Reddit all over again. Zap against Arkil on the left-hand side. Zap uses the stun. Arkil uses the ultimate. So an interesting trade between the two, and Arkil happy with the result there. The ultimate doesn't take too long to come up again.
75 seconds, you're never really worried. As an Anhur player, very safe. Not too safe as Panda Cat under his own mid-tower.
Now it takes a lot of poke from Sam, and now Sam going to swoop on in, looking for the kill. Panda's going to duke it out, and Sam not going to fully commit there. To the skies is channeled by PolarBearMike, and on landing they're going to potentially find Sam. But Mike came in alone, has to swoop away. Kraken on Neil's good, but Neil also had his ultimate up to get a bit of sustain and survive. Back go SK Gaming, and Rival have to turn tail at half health.
Smart that they didn't go for the ride there to go under that tier 1 tower, but then they don't get the benefits of the shield.
Let's see if we can go back and look at that replay real quick of how Captain Twig died there on that right-hand side. This was Neil, and then you see where Twig is in the distance. Neil's fighting a minion. Punch it in the face, son. Yeah, good job. Okay, eventually, any of those fists will be enough, and then Twig goes in and goes, okay, you're backing.
The anticipation.
The fast clap. No one expects the fast clap from the support. And
Deadlier than the slow clap.
really from both, in fairness, but it's definitely fun. And yeah, I agree. Definitely more dangerous than the slow clap, for sure. Golf claps in those days.
Oh yeah, the
too.
golf claps.
Yeah.
3-level lead from NeilMah. Being able to get this kind of a level lead might allow SK Gaming to fight with all 10 relics before Rival have access to.
It's a good point. We'll see if those relic situation does develop. The Gold Fury hasn't been taken just yet, and I'm wondering which team may lean a little bit heavier on taking it. Sure, I feel SK's got the speed of killing it with their composition, but Rival have a bit of better confirm, I would say, with the fact they've got at least a Kraken, I guess, that they can be utilized in those situations.
I think so. If you give SK Gaming a window, they can definitely, 100 to 0 it in a good amount of time, like you were talking about Paul on the Ullr zap on the Chronos, looking for the ring build now, but Rival are going to rely on this Kraken.
Well, I mentioned Gold Fury. It's almost like a right this script, isn't it? There's the Kraken too. Rival get a Gold Fury. SK Gaming turn up at the tail end. Zapman zooming on in. Let's go, son. No Kraken to worry about. The Whirlpool, however. Rival still falling back as SK look through the jungle of Rival and realize there's nothing to be taken.
That was perfectly timed there, Hindu, man. You know how there's always the caster's curse?
Yep.
That was like a caster's blessing.
I decided to change it up this year, We're going to bless teams from now instead of curse them.
That's how you're writing the script now.
Do you want to bless SK?
Why would I want to bless SK?
So we get more games?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, well, I'm not investing in the blessing on you just yet, like maybe next week.
I don't need the blessing.
It's one at a time, I'll take it first with the blessing and stuff, and then I'll pass it on to you.
Fair enough.
Okay? Next week.
Next week.
Let me know who you want to bless
Can we
next
bless
week.
Space Station Gaming to get back
God,
into-
they need some blessings, don't they, without
They
they've
do.
been performing. I'm roasting for fun. You know what it's like. No, they're bad. Whatever you want. I watch Barrow on stream. I'm in the fish club. I can say what I want. Swoops in the jungle from Sam on Panda Cat. And I tell you what, he's under a lot of pressure. The Aegis boy him a second in the Whirlpool deal. Oh, Panda Cat, have fun, son. The giggle, look at his face. I love the smile. He deserves to laugh there.
The laugh. Sam
Well
for
played.
Soccer not able to get around that wall to hit the third strike of his ultimate. Also, Panda Cat having more mobility with the Trident.
Arkil getting aggressive again on Zapman. Zapman used the stun. Now has to use the Aegis at the tail end. And Zap using the Aegis there, quite important. Arkil still has both relics available. 4-4 then. 2K lead so far for Rival. All action in Game 3 of this best-of-5 set. And to be fair, you saw it coming with how the first two games began, Tolly.
Definitely. With the action in the dueling even, like Zapman getting soloed in game number 2, getting soloed in game number 3, wanting to avoid the second instance in one game. So we're seeing even more action on the left side.
Pyromancer started up by Rival. Yeah, you're right. It looks like a nice little window develops again. Rival just starting to play. Oh, wait, the steal! Paul Paul with the rain of arrows of destiny there, coming up quite big for SK. Sure, it's only a pyro, but when you get caught with your pants down, to turn around and make a play is so important.
Because it's such a time investment whenever any team is grouped up as 4 to go for an objective, even though it's worth like 500 gold, it's not worth that much, honestly, at the end of the day.
Sure.
But they spent all this time, and all you had to do was use one ability to steal it. It's very demoralizing.
And that's what I was going to say. I think the one thing about the pyro going down is the morale boost you get, or the morale loss you get from like, oh man, they just got pyro 2 for nothing. Or, hey, we got the pyro, we should have lost it. Nice, guys, we're back in this.
Yeah, so that could be a boost for SK Gaming,
Yeah.
potentially. They're not that down too much. It's still fightable. They can rely on the strength of the Chronos late game. Maybe some of the damage coming through from this Ullr on the ability side.
Nice little dash over the wall from PolarBearMike, who's got a shield of regrowth here. I do like this on Horus. Extra mobility from healing yourself will make an impact. Plus cooldown and a nice chunk of health too. NeilMah, meanwhile, getting aggressive against Arkil and Twig. The walls will collapse on Arkil as Twig gets aggressive on Neil. Dot damage into play as the Paolo is signaled. Where's the Paolo gonna go on towards Zap, who uses the bead? Sam at the tail end gets pulled on in. And on detonation land into the skies goes Mike. They didn't really find the stun he was after. The stun after the fact on Sam did hit. And now Sam forced to ult himself, but Twig going in again on Paul, and Paul on the run, but Twig still not done. Neil trying to slow that down with a beautiful root, and Paul is still alive, but for how long?
Shell bottom a moment, PBM blinks, looking for a knock-up, not going to be able to hit anybody as Paul escapes safely under that tier 2 tower. Gold Fury not due to respawn for about another minute, but this tier 1 tower could be vulnerable.
Lots of fighting there, but nobody really died. SK, however, look at the relic situation now. They used a hell of a lot of their relics. At least the carries from Rival have a couple of theirs still available at this moment in time. And with the opportunity, Rival take a tier 1 tower, but Belair may look to try and get a pick here.
Probably.
Nah.
And that fight was all because of a red buff invade. So many abilities being thrown out. Obviously, Rival getting the better end with 500 gold, losing their red buff. They're not too stressed out about that.
The one thing we're seeing, though, is exactly what we expect as the game's gone on. It's become more scrappy between the two. It's very much a two juggernauts fighting it out in the ring, just throwing haymakers at each other just to see who gets knocked out first.
But we haven't seen the full 5-on-5 yet between these two soul laners making their rotation. Very evenly matched between the Osiris and Bellona since the dawn of time in this matchup, honestly. But I'm liking Belair's influence in the team fights a little bit better, knowing that he has Height of Nemi in line to start punishing out Arkil's basic attacks, knowing that he has Frostbound Hammer to chase down anyone out of position.
I'm excited for Sam Fasaka this game because I feel like he's having a bit of a better game so far. He seems to have struggled on and off through this year from my point of view. I don't know whether the amount of stardom he got so early in his career with his performance in SK at the World Championships just gone, not necessarily went to his head, but like, you know, people overestimated, people gave him too much credit at the same time, because then a lot of people expect you to perform consistently. And I think Sam, you know, he's found a window here and there to make things work, but he's still got time to learn in this role.
He definitely does. He switched his identity quite heavily. Before, he was constantly ganking the dual lane at level 2, even a couple of times.
But why is that not
this
happening,
split.
Tully?
They wanted to be able to be flexible, the
Right.
team overall, SK Gaming, and sometimes you just got to lean on your strength. Sanford Soccer actually has the highest first blood in the league with 7.
PolarBearMike getting aggressive on Neil for a second or two. Won't do too much there. He was really looking to try and wrap around behind Zapman, who's at level 19. The dual lane hunters, or should I say the Chronos and the Anhur this game, are both the highest levels in the game. This is the sort of meta we've seen in previous years, Season 4-esque, of hunters getting all the free farm and trying to pop off as the game goes on. But an Anhur in the late game, is it going to be the same as a Chronos?
Not the same, but still impactful. The shifting sands, getting more and more slow impact. The spears are going to hurt from a like, you're so safe whenever you throw out that Desert Fury. So being able to, let's say, hit Paul in the back line, you're like X-raying through a Guardian to hit the squishies, could be something Arco's looking for, especially.
Guys, Mike's up. Where's he going to land? Twig's going with him. I'm not sure exactly where, because even I'm confused there, but it's all in on Belair, who avoids the Kraken and Eagles rallies away, but fine okay with a Lord of the Afterlife to send him to the Afterlife. Twig gets credit for the kill, and not only that, Rivals Take away the Oni Fury.
I think SK Gaming got caught with their pants down. I don't think they anticipated the 2 Disguise from PBM and the all-in commit there. They were scattered at 3 different avenues trying to reset the team fight and figure out what was going to happen, but the problem was Belair couldn't reset the team fight, getting chased down by Final K.
5-4, then it stands. Pyromancer's up, and this time, I don't know if Paul can thread a hail of arrows over the wall, not with the speed that Rival are destroying things in the jungle. For a second, I actually thought they might pull that Fire Giant with how high level our kill is, but instead, they're going to take the easier option in a tier 1 tower and a bit more of an invade on this blue one.
Well, Belair respawning in 10 seconds has teleported up. I'm sure Rival are considering those factors as to whether or not it's worth pulling the Fire Giant. Getting a guaranteed 500 gold accelerates them closer to that mid-game dominant form where they can keep forcing these objectives.
Kind of happy that so far Horus hasn't made too much of an impact. I mean, he's made a couple of good ultimates, but I'm glad he's low-key because it means he won't get nerfed, right? That's what I'm after. It means I can keep playing him.
Oh, Hindu.
What? That's how
The
that's
support
what we all
bias.
think about.
You don't see me
Do you know how often it is a support gets to do something fun?
Okay, but you don't see me gaslighting like solo Achilles when he was released.
Yeah, you did. You were like, hell, he's going to execute. Oh, yeah, baby. Don't tell me lies.
I wasn't to the same extent as you with Horus.
Okay, well, this is better. That's why. Rival will take a Fire Giant, but they used the Kraken to secure it. Now Belair trapped in a world of hurt. Sure, he had thorns, but the damage was spread, and now Neil pulled into death.
Oh.
His beads weren't available, and now his life is taken too, and Rival can start to turn their attention towards the towers.
Twig doing such a fantastic job on this dodge G. Despite that earlier death after invading the blue buff, has been stepping it up. Not going to win the 1v1 against Sam on the Camazotz, but these pulls have been so well timed in that last fight. Pulling out NeilMah while there was no monoliths, making sure he was guaranteed stunned and pulled. And then the second one also, before that last fight, onto Belair, waiting for the Eagles rally to make sure it wasn't going to get cleansed away.
The Phoenix on the right side will fall here. No one going to come back and defend. SK relinquishing it, recognizing there's no chance to defend. Instead, they'll take a tier 2 in the middle lane as Sam for Soccer split pushes there as Twig was trying to defend, but also Paul on the left-hand side is trying to catch up in farm too. SK trying to use this window to push out the other lanes and get the experience back.
This is the old Cloud9 / energy special. When you're behind, you just got to split push at the end of the day. The problem is SK Gaming don't have globals to continue to split push relentlessly, so Rival can breathe easier knowing that they don't have to fully defend.
Gotta say though, 23 minutes in the game and Zapman this game, 4.4k player damage. That's low, and Paul right behind him at 5.6k. SK haven't really found any damage this game.
They were on the defensive front the whole entire game, so if they can just force the fight on their own terms, then that 4.4k can easily be 8.4k over one team fight.
Mike pressure in the mid lane, going to try and get some tier 1 tower damage on with the Fire Giant buff and Panda Cat in tow. This tier 1 tower should fall eventually. Mike going to purely tack it up. Got to be careful as that though. Will dash away to safety. Whirlpool through onto Zapman, who escapes it. Tier 1 falls, and in goes Mike with the blink. Into the walls from Neil, though, to block PolarBearMike, and the knockup. Well played by Neil.
A huge beats burner onto a god that has no CC immunity. Paul likes to play aggressive. Without this relic, can no longer do so.
In the sky, PolarBearMike is right now. I just see the little hover in death symbol, but where's he going to go is a real question. Just the left-hand side.
Yeah, I think he wanted to go under the middle Phoenix, but then he realized it's safer to go under the tier
It's kind of okay with this ultimate on PolarBearMike on Horus to just free cast it and try and make a play off it, because it's not going to be something that you use in a big old team fight. You can't stand still for that length of time and just be sat on the ground taking damage.
And it's an intimidation factor.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see that ultimate under a Phoenix siege. Like, if everyone sees you do it.
And here's the engage onto the left-hand Phoenix. Remember, Ryan Phoenix already down. Fine, okay, boxing away against Zapman, and Zapman forced to rewind, but where's he going to end up? Back at his tower line still. Sam Pasaka, though, gets onto Panda Cat in the back, and he needs some support, getting it finally towards the tail end. But Panda Cat is almost out of the fight. Arkill, though, took out Belair, and Arkill's on a double kill. This could be another Penta.
They could potentially look for it. Zapman very low, gonna get stunned up by Final K, but NeilMah doing a good job zoning in his zone.
And Zapman forced out too. Left-hand Phoenix does now fall. Middle Phoenix is exposed with minions on the way. Twig getting aggressive on Neil. The walls will come down, but Twig will bead away from the walls to make sure the follow-up damage from Paul and Zap don't make an impact. It was scrappy, totally, but I think Rival have this one
I
here.
think so too, wanting to be 100% certain by making the Titan at its most vulnerable form.
Zap will fall to Captain Twig. And the scrappiness of this game is coming to an end.
To the skies.
We expected this game, Tolly. We expected this set to go, well, back and forth. Maybe not in terms of a full 5-game matchup, but it was very exciting to watch.
SK Gaming losing this set doesn't eliminate their chances to qualify towards MSI if they still beat out Space Station Gaming and hope that Splice lose 2 games. If Splice can lose 2 more games, then that's it for them.
We've been talking a lot about SK, about how they've been middle of the pack, Tolly, but honestly, the longer the season's gone on, the spurt of aggression, the spirited start that they had SK Gaming, they got off to a great beginning of the season.
Yeah.
The longer it's gone on, it's drifting, it feels like.
A little
today.
bit. I mean, even though they lost to Pittsburgh Knights 0-3, they didn't look like a team that lost 0-3.
No.
They took it to 5 games against Thanatos, 5 games to E United. The Renegade set was a little bit rough in this last week.
Yeah, that's the thing. Renegade set was a little bit rough, and
Yeah.
now the rival set is 3-0-2. It's starting to slip.
Well, the thing is, they can take a lot to learn from. Sometimes you want to start off slow, and then you could pick it up later. But for SK's case, it was a little bit of the opposite. But like I mentioned before, they're still not out of MSI. Rival were already clenched no matter what happened in this set, but now trying to climb up in those standings.
SK Gaming then with their work cut out for them to make it to MSI. Rival, meanwhile, though, do climb in the standings because of that win, too. They really was trying to separate themselves from the middle of the pack here. Was that warranted? Do you think that was where they should be?
Only losing to Dignitas so far. I'm very impressed with how Rival have been performing this entire split.
Who's your MVP for Rival here?
MVP for Rival. I mean, it's easier to say like Arkill, I guess, because of how many solo kills he had, but at the end of the day, I'm going to actually give it to PBM for the set.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Twig myself. I think he performed very well too. We're always going to argue who we think does the best, but that's not our job overall. What is our job anyway? Let's go to the desk and break it down, the whole set of the day.
Yeah, Hindu, it's your job to bring it to us so we can talk about all that stuff. You already did your job. Good job. But a big win there for Rival. 3-0, which I think is maybe... It's not surprising that they won. Rival were the favorites. But 3-0 with no game going very long at all in a dominant fashion like this, that was a bit surprising there for me. What about you, Taco? Did you expect it to look this way?
I think after game 1, I was a little skeptical about the set, being a full closeout. Because game 2, it looked as though SK was actually going to bring that one back. But
yeah, it was close.
They just kind of fell short today, and it's actually got... It reminds me a lot of SK after losing to the Renegades, where I don't think anybody was really expecting that to be a 3-0 set either, but
Right.
I'm starting to think more and more that SK is just kind of struggling with trying to find their identity with the changes that have been happening recently in the meta, because they just looked a little bit lost today against Rival.
Yeah, I think what sort of solidified is I used to think of SK as middle of the pack with that upside potential. They could beat the best any day. Now I'm starting to think that they're just middle of the pack. They'll probably beat your LGs, your Trifectas, maybe even Space Station, but I don't know if they can really do much beyond that with the way they play here today. And I think that a lot of it comes down to just how flexible Rival are. They played so many different things throughout this set. The Horus, we talked about how great that was. It obviously worked out well. But Captain Twig on the Dodgy, I think, was really the backbreaker here in this game.
And that's the thing, Finch. I don't want to make it out to be, well, Rival won this at 3-0 because SK just sucked. And I really think that this was wholeheartedly just Rival consistently outplaying SK at every opportunity that an outplay was possible. And it didn't just come from one single member of the team. I'm right there with you. I definitely think that Captain Twig and FineOK had a fantastic set today, and those two looked unstoppable as a pair.
I think so too, man. That was that FineOK Twig synergy is just so scary for them to deal with, whether it's ganks that are happening over there in that lane, whether it's them rotating a little bit earlier than their opposition. They do a lot of stuff that keeps the other team a bit confused about where the pressure is coming from. But the reason that Toli and Hindu have such a hard time picking the MVP is because, as I've been saying all along, no one plays better as a team right now than Rival. I think I feel comfortable just saying that flat out. Even Dignitas, even Knights, these guys play so well as a unit, and that's why they can switch things around so often, because their synergies is always going to be there for this team. But SK made some other mistakes. How do you like where they put Chronos and Ullr in this matchup, right? Maybe those could have been swapped around and you give the Ullr to Zapman?
I just feel like it was awkward for Zapman to have this Chronos against Arkill's Anhur, because as soon as you hit level 5, I mean, Anhur is given so much free pressure because the Desert Fury alone is going to put Chronos down into one-shot range if Arkill's able to connect every single spear out of the 8 that you have. And even if you don't hit all 8, all you realistically need is 4 or more, and you're still probably going to at least force the Chronos rewind, and that alone should put Zatman into a pretty prime pick position, which is exactly what Rival kept taking advantage of. I mean, even Arkil had his own advantages over Zatman in that 1v1.
Exactly. There were just too many areas in that game, too many lane matchups in particular where they couldn't get pressure. And for me, I think that we're going to need to see more from Sam, just based on the way he played here today. Sam was in my top 3 of junglers, man. He was in my top 3 of just playmakers. I had him so high up. I think he can still get back to that level, but we didn't see it from today or against the Renegades either. That is another thing that's missing from SK's, sort of recipe to success, is getting him back to a level where he can perform really well. I like the idea with the Camazotz. It was kind of keeping up with the Horus and not letting his control be such a problem, but for the most part, it just wasn't enough.
I think that Sam was kind of just overwhelmed, though, because he didn't really have a winning lane that he could actually choose to try and play off of. I think outside of Game 1 and Zap finding that solo kill against Arkil, there really wasn't anywhere for Sam to go. And for the first 2 games, we saw Sam trying to prioritize ganking Belair's lane, but honestly, I think more of the issue fell for me onto that solo lane. That solo lane was just, it did not work out at all today. I don't want to know if it's or say, it's just Belair being awful, but it seemed like an off day for sure,
right,
for both Sam and Belair, but they just both did not look like they were on par with the other, constantly out of time when trying to sync their abilities together for looking for punishment against FinoK, and FinoK was just taking full advantage of it, and the rotations from Rival could not have been stronger to better punish SK for them.
And the only traditional matchup that Belair got all day was this Osiris Bellona one towards the end. He played against the Zhong earlier and the Baron Samedi, maybe just to some extent not quite ready for FinoK's sort of eclectic god pool. Maybe that's part of it. It really is hard to say from the outside looking in, but Rival have got to be feeling good after that big win. We've got a couple of their guys standing by. Slaney and Arkil, we'll get to hear their thoughts.
Thank you, Finch. I do have Slaney and Arkil. Congratulations, first of all, over your 3-0 clean win over SK Gaming. I have to ask you, though, with the second pick in games 1 and 2, you're relying a lot on FinoK's Zhong in game 1 and then the Baron in game 2. But then during picks and bans, PBM was very animated. Do you remember what he was talking about?
Mike talks so much all the time. A lot of the times he'll just be animated and just make loads of big moves, and it can mean nothing. So I remember him doing that, but I don't remember specifically what it was about because Mike just talks all the time.
Yeah,
so,
I have no idea what he said.
Yeah, he just talks.
Arkil, game 1, get soloed. Did that anger you in game 2 and game 3? Is that why we saw the turnarounds there?
I don't know. I didn't think too much of that solo kill because he didn't really. I mean, I was not expecting the Morrigan ADC, so I didn't play the matchup in a while. And he played that really well. So
did that adjust your mentality in terms of how that matchup's going to go in the lane? In terms of you two just with whatever gods of how you were both going to play that matchup?
I just wanted to pick a good matchup into him. That's why I picked Ullr a game against Chronos. Anhur against AMC. I thought he was going to be MC, but he wasn't.
So in the picks and bans, you guys were banning away the Horus, but then picking it in first game. Was this an SK-specific strategy, or do you just think Horus is OP? Because it didn't look like he was super busted that game.
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but Mike didn't make it look the best. I'll say that much. But
Not really? I thought it was the best Horus I've ever seen.
Well, it's the only Horus you've ever seen so far.
So he doesn't need nerfs, right? He just needs
He's
buffs.
perfectly fine.
There we go. That's a coach from Rival saying that too. Arkil, tell me a little bit about how your transition to America's been as well. You've been here a little while now, settled all down. How are you guys getting on as a team? Are you still happy and all having fun still?
Yeah, I mean, this place is not the best for going out, I guess, but we're having a good time with the team, so I'm enjoying myself so far. Yeah.
Awesome. What's the plans with the next couple of games you got coming up? Is there anything you're worried about in terms of opposition left to face?
Well, I think with this set, we're cinched for MSI. I think there's no way we can't make it anymore, regardless of what the other teams do. So I think we can probably take a bit more of a relaxed attitude. Obviously, Renegades is going to be a really hard set regardless, and we still want to win no matter what, get better seeding. But I think it is a lot of pressure off of our shoulders, even though we knew or we thought highly that we would make the set. We would make MSI regardless, but it is a big weight off of our shoulders, and we can practice a bit slower until MSI.
Real last question then. Expectations for MSI overall. What are your hopes? I mean, what are you expecting realistically?
Well, I mean, we're going to win, obviously.
Yeah,
realistically?
Really confident.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Realistically.
I just wanted to be
Do you think differently?
Not necessarily. I can't tell that.
I think it's going to be between us and PK,
Yeah.
or even Dig, maybe.
Yeah, I think PK have really skyrocketed. So I would just expect us versus PK in the finals.
Awesome. Pleasure to watch you both play today. Well, one of you played
Thank
and
you.
one coach
I
today.
tried my hardest.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. Good luck
Thank
next
you.
match.
You too.
I don't know, Hindu. I think this team could win. I mean, with the way they've been playing, they're definitely up at the very top. Glad to see that Slaney and Arkle both feeling confident, because I think they've earned that confidence that they're feeling right now.
I don't think I could have said it any better, Finch. That earned confidence is definitely showing in full force today. And you know what, Rival? Go enjoy it. I mean, you guys earned that, I think, downtime that Slaney was talking about. And it's not to say, that they're going to, slack on the rest of their remaining sets leading up to MSI. But I totally see from their perspective where they have a chance to, I think, hold back now. Don't necessarily have to give away any sort of niche picks or pocket picks that they might have in the works for LAN.
Well, let's take a look at where all the teams have shaped up after this last game. Remember, we only have one more game this week. That will be tomorrow. But Arrival still right there up near the very, very top, 6-1. Because of Dignitas's loss, if Dignitas were to lose again, go to 7-2, and then Rival were to close out their last 2 sets as a win, they could still make it up to the very, very top. So I know that they're saying maybe they could relax, but I think maybe wait and see how things go with Dig before you truly decide that.
It's so crazy to think that how heavily things have already shifted since the introduction of Renegades to Season 6
They
SPL.
changed a lot.
It's just thrown everything out of whack, and now teams like Space Station and Splice are really just scattering, trying to figure out where to next.
We haven't even seen Splice's new roster, right? Where their mid shakeup has happened and everything like that too. It's Sino over there, so we don't even know how that's going to work. That big matchup tomorrow could be a big difference maker. If Splice lose that matchup, I would consider them out of the running. But if they come in and win tomorrow, then they could definitely win out. I don't think it's going to be easy by any means, but that keeps that door still open for that team to try and make.
SK losing today keeps the door still open
That
for
helps a
both
lot.
Space Station and Splice. The pressure is on right now for all 3 of those teams because they want to make it to MSI, and who knows what comes after that.
Well, I think I've got an idea about what comes after that. It's Phase 2, and then that leads everyone up to High Res Expo. Thanks for teeing me up, Taco. It's like she does this for a living or something like that. Buy those tickets now at highresexpo.com. You're going to want to come hang out with all of us. Not only will there be so much of our stuff that's going on there where you get to touch some of your favorite players and coaches. You can watch SMITE, Paladins, everything that we do, but you can come meet some of us there too. I will be going around the whole weekend, not just talking about how much I love SMITE, but probably talking a little bit about Pokemon, which just got announced too, which I will be obsessed with. So if you want to come hang out with me, see what I'm doing, that'll all be happening there at High Res Expo. Make sure you're there.
And it's always a fun time. I mean, even if you want something a little bit more outside of the venue even, there's definitely lots of cool sites and attractions to check out while you're in the heart of Atlanta. And, I mean, you got to come meet us. Why else would you not want to go?
Yeah, that's right. The key thing, again, is that you want to make sure that you get your free drink with Aggro. He'll be not only drinking there with you, but he'll buy your drink for you. He said that to me in confidence behind the scenes, so I'm letting you all know
I agree.
that that's a promise that he has for you. But if you all want some more enjoyment here today in the short term, make sure you pick up the extraterrestrial chest that's going on in-game right now with that Bastet skin in it as well. The Luminous Bastet skin. Sounds pretty nice. Going to want to make sure that you guys grab that as well.
I played it yesterday. If you look good, you play good. Trust me.
Exactly right. And Bastet's scary. She still stomps on squishies. Don't let anybody tell you different. Plenty of damage, and you can look good while you're letting everybody know that you love to play some Assassins. Taco, that should just about do it here for us today. I mean, only
think
one
that
set today.
might be the end of it. Oh, by the way, Horus perfectly balanced.
Yes, that's right. Horus
Slaney said
didn't
it
look
here
perfect in this game, which means he's not that good. You're exactly right. Check back for some more SPL tomorrow. It'll be 1 p.m. right back here on mixer.com/SMITE game. That's the Splice and Space Station set. You're absolutely not going to want to miss it.
The SMITE Pro League, brought to you by Titanforge, Hi-Res Studios, iNap, Respawn, SteelSeries, Alienware, and Skillshot.
And I've been falling, I've been lost, and I've been calling